Hi, Alex.
Good evening, Rochelle.
Hi, Tony.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm
Hey.
okay.
Good. I saw
Oh, we're
your
still waiting.
latest broadcast.
I know I did. I was very quick. I couldn't, request the join me.
Right.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a wrap up tonight.
Okay.
You have to join me though sometime. You've never joined me.
I haven't, but our schedules just don't coincide.
Commissioner Rogers used to join me. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. But give me a heads up next time.
I will. But it's very impromptu. Very impromptu.
Yeah, I know. I have a parking issue on a couple of days because street sweeping.
Mm,
I can't move my cars because I'll be out of luck.
that is a
Back.
concern.
Mhm.
Alex, Commissioner McCarty should be coming on in a minute or so. He's just arrived back on a flight.
Okay, and I'm monitoring the attendee list and promoting commissioners.
Okay. And Alex, DGS will have a small presentation tonight for 501 New York Avenue.
No problem.
Hi to all of my constituents. I see many are on there, so it's an exciting night for 2G06. As usual. Alex, do you want to get started since we have a quorum?
Yes, I was just making sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to. I don't see Commissioner Berry yet, but we can get started and when she arrives. All right, it's 6:31 p.m. on Thursday, May the 11th, 2023. This is the May public meeting of Advisory Neighborhood Commission 2G. I'm the chair, Alexander Padro. We currently do not have a secretary, so I will go ahead and call the roll. 2G01.
Present.
2G02, that's myself, present. 2G03 is currently vacant. 2G04 is Commissioner Berry. Oh, I'm sorry, is
No,
Commissioner Carty?
it's me, and I'm here.
2G05, I'm just checking once again to see if Commissioner Berry has joined so that I can vote her. I do not see her yet, so she is absent. And 2G06.
I am here.
And we do have a quorum to conduct official business. Commissioners, you have a draft agenda. I'll go ahead and share the screen and put that up. So this is a preliminary agenda that was distributed last Thursday. Do any commissioners have any suggestions or recommendations for changes to the agenda? Or if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
I move to approve the agenda for the May 2023 meeting.
And I'll second it. Oh, go ahead, McCarthy.
It's been moved by Commissioner Nigro, seconded by Commissioner McCarty, that we approve the agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hands. Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. I will check one more time for Commissioner Berry to see if she has joined us yet. I still do not see her. So we will move on to our first item of business, which is, as always, is to hear from the Metropolitan Police Department. Lieutenant Miller is with us. I will promote him to panelist. Good evening, Lieutenant.
Good evening, everybody.
Glad to have you with us this evening. If you can go ahead and present your report.
All right, so I know there were some questions that were sent to me by email. They wanted to know about the status of the assault of the business owner on 1300 block of 9th Street. So I'll start with that. The individual was arrested on the 12th, the same day the assault took place. On the 20th, they had a mental health status hearing, and they decided to hold this individual. So he's still held. He's in DC jail, and his next hearing is on May 23rd, and that's where the Department of Mental Health is going to present their case on his mental health status. So on May 11th, the suspect's defense attorney wanted to have him sent to St. Elizabeth's, and the judge denied that. So he's still being held in DC jail, and the next update will come after May 23rd, his court date. I know some people were asking about that. And the second topic was the homicide that happened on April 19th. That was 8th in Rhode Island. And that case is still open. It happened on April 19th, 2023 at 11 p.m. Our shot spotter, which detects sounds of gunshots, detected one round. Officers canvassed the area, found the victim laying on the sidewalk. We got video footage. There's one person next to him that may be a possible suspect / witness. Unfortunately, the guy succumbed to his gunshot wound and he died. It's currently with the homicide detectives, and they haven't put anything out yet for lookouts or suspect information. So it's on the homicide side there. And there's no current threat to the neighborhood or anything based on what we have for that. Besides those two things, overall for the month, there's been an uptick of carjacking. There's been 3 incidents where people on scooters have come to like traffic lights or stop signs. Juveniles in a car that follows them. Somebody jumps out of the car, knocks them off the scooter, either produces a gun or just physically throws them off the thing and steals the scooters. We've had 3 of those since April. So what else do we have here? We had we had an arrest for 2 individuals on what was it? 5th and O Street, or 5th and N. Metro Transit Police was in the area, and they heard sounds of gunshots, and they went towards the gunshots. They saw 2 suspects attempt to jump over a brick wall. And while they were trying to apprehend those 2 individuals, they found an individual suffering from a gunshot wound to his leg. They ended up catching those 2 suspects, and they had 2 guns on them, 2 illegal ghost guns, extended magazines, and those 2 were placed under arrest for assault with intent to kill. So that's basically what I have right now. If anybody has any questions or any other specifics they would like to know on any other cases, feel free to ask that information.
Any general statistics?
Yeah, I can give you that too. For the last 30 days, there was they had the homicide. There was 7 robberies. The 3 of those were the carjacking robberies. We had 25 theft from autos, 9 motor vehicle thefts, and 1 arson, which happened at the convention center, which was closed with an arrest. The officers on scene arrested that individual, a homeless person trying to set fire in the bathroom, and he was placed under arrest. So that's closed. And then that ADW gun that I spoke about, Metro Transit, that one was also closed. And one of the robberies, all these robberies are all considered carjackings, but they're classified as robberies. One of them was unsuccessful. The person fought him off, and they were able to keep the scooter, but there's no attempt carjacking, so it's still considered a carjacking. So that's basically it. If anybody has any other questions.
All right, commissioners, questions? Commissioner Nigro?
So I want to thank MPD for their work on, I feel I've lost count about the carjacking, to be perfectly frank. And then there was the infamous one that they swooped into our neighborhood from Georgetown and landed in our area.
I can speak on that too. We arrested 2 people from that one. It was a carjacking slash robbery that happened over in the CVS in the 2nd District, and our helicopter was in the air, was able to give a lookout to our officers, and they called them right there at 5th and N. 2 juveniles.
5th and M.
Yes, right there next to the convenience store.
No,
yeah.
that's not, nope. They caught him, but the car landed at I'm sorry, 4th and M. That's where the
Yeah.
car landed.
Yeah, and the suspects were arrested right there in front of the convenience
Yep.
store. And they were both juveniles. So I
Well, it
think
was
13 and
quite the
14.
show.
Yeah, 13 and 14-year-olds.
So there's that one, and then the person there was a carjacking at 6th and L, and that person was arrested. But I also want to thank you because I don't think I posted it. I put for people who are not normally on this call, I post everything on my social media. And what was interesting was the fire in one of the row houses on 5th Street. And it was a robbery, but it turned out to be a person who was encamped in there. So I
Yeah.
want to thank you guys for that, because that could have been really, really bad.
Yeah, we have a lot of vacant homes also in this area,
Yes.
and a lot of the owners are not in the area, and it's hard to get in contact. We've got a couple where we've made contact with, we've got permission to make arrests for unlawful entry while the city does their part, try to secure these buildings.
So I had emailed, and I'll re-email it could be one of 2 buildings about which one it was. I didn't get a response back. So I want to bring in the Department of Buildings into this picture, because anyone who's familiar with my single member district, all these small developments are not good. So if you could follow, I'll resend you the email.
Roll call. Not your roll call, but the watch, I know. Said it mine.
Anything else, Commissioner Niagara?
Might be watching.
Nope, done for now.
Questions from other commissioners for the lieutenant?
I'm gonna check with Sergeant Wallace, who has.
Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the audience. If there's anyone that would like to ask a question, the 3rd District Lieutenant Miller, please indicate by raising your hand or using *69 if you're on the phone. And I don't see any hands being raised. Wait a minute. Yeah. Yes, so Mateo de Sabata, go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, this is Matteo. I live on M Street, MM4th, and our back alley is on 438. I've been in contact with several officers from.
Can you speak up? We're having a little difficulty hearing you.
Yes, is it better now?
A little
Yeah,
bit.
I got you.
So our back alley is on Ridge Street, 48 Ridge Street, and I've been in contact with many officers because we have a problem with Dunbar students coming to the back alley to smoke potentially weed, gamble, and do other activities, including defecating. They came and defecated in the alley earlier this week. This is a widespread problem across all the alleys in the area. If people walk around 9 to 10 a.m. and in the afternoon, they can see groups of teenagers smoking around this area. So my question is, what is the plan to address this problem? I know that there are several officers doing walks. However, they can just do so much. Is there a broader effort to address this problem of juveniles not going to school?
Well, yes, we're definitely aware of the situation on Ridge, Morgan, and 5th Street, the rear alleys, and that PSA 308, that whole corridor right there with those streets, Morgan, Ridge, 5th, has been they declared that one of the hot spots. So now all shifts, the officers that are in that PSA have to go through that area for at least 15 minutes, go through there and check and make sure the kids aren't there. We've passed this on to the SROs at Dunbar High School. They said that's not in their area. They only handle on school grounds. We've contacted Safe Passage, which should kind of help with that, but we haven't got back from them. The the 3rd district is definitely aware of that. And like I said, if they're doing that, the best bet is just to dial 911 so an officer can immediately respond. I know people like to send emails to the watch commander or call the watch commander phone, but if they're in there in the back alleys, just dial 911. It's the quickest way to get the officers to respond out there. And we are definitely aware of that. And we're doing the best we can with the officers we have to go out there and address those concerns.
Okay, so I dialed 911 today, nothing
Yeah.
happened. I called, nobody came, nobody called me back.
Yeah. So you definitely when you call, you need to tell the dispatcher you want to speak with the officer, so the officer will come.
I said that, and I gave my number. Nobody called me back, and I assume nobody came because I have a camera there.
Yeah.
I called the watch commander early this week when this happened, and after 12 minutes, people were there. 2 officers were there.
Yeah.
However, officer can come in the back alley once in the morning, one in the afternoon for 3-5 minutes. I understand that. But kids are coming at all times of the day. So
Yeah.
I think we need a more structural way to approach it. I have a 10-month-old baby. My nanny cannot get out of the garage door and find a group of 7-8 teenagers smoking and giving weed. That is not safe. So I really, and I appreciate all the work that you all are doing. This is for sure, but I'd like to get something more structural as a solution. I don't know if you can help on this.
Yeah, and there's really, I mean, like I said, the best way is just on 911. We don't have the resources to have somebody back there long term or more than 15 minutes. And based on the call volume and the calls for service, I mean, this falls under the category of disorderly, like smoking drugs in public, urinating in public, loitering in public, drinking in public are all considered disorderlies and fall below the priority calls, which are going to be the assaults, the burglaries, the robberies, the accidents, the injured people in the hospital. Like there's a
No, I understand.
So,
I understand.
The only way to get the officers there is 911. And if the officer doesn't come, I mean, just keep calling 911. I don't know if it's a disconnect with the dispatcher not sending it out there, but when a call comes through and it says 911, the computer screen says the caller's name and it says request the call back, and it has the caller's name and it says there's a box and it says the complainant wants to be contacted. The officer can't clear the scene until the complainant's contacted. So it won't even let you do that.
Okay.
That's why I don't know if there's a disconnect when the dispatcher or the call taker, but when an officer gets assigned the call to any call and it says request to talk to the complainant, the officer has to do that. They can't just clear it without making that notification.
Lieutenant Miller, let me make this clear, and for all my constituents on this call, and I speak to Mateo often, right, Mateo?
Yes.
And so oh my goodness gracious. And so let me tell you, for everyone who's on the call who is aware of this problem, this is at a very high level now, the mayor, the city administrator, and the deputy mayor for education. This is nonsense that this happens every morning and every afternoon in every alley, Lieutenant Miller. So this is at such a high level to solve this. It is a truancy problem.
Yeah.
And the fact that no one addresses that is shameful for this administration. And it is not only Dunbar, it is many schools. And, it is out there and many people know, and they don't do anything. That's the reality.
Yeah.
So it's not the police's responsibility for this.
Hello.
There you go, truancy problem.
May I say something?
Hi, Assistant Chief.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I can't turn on my camera. I don't know how I am carried in this panel, but I want to join in on the conversation that we're having because I think that's important. So I don't know if somebody can upgrade me so I can participate in the panel.
I just promoted you.
Okay.
It'll take a moment for the assistant chief to be able to come back in.
All right. So hi, everyone. I'm Assistant Chief Kane, and I've been listening in on the conversation that you've been having. But one of the things I want to talk a little bit further about before we kind of go off of the deep end with the kids at Dunbar and what you're seeing in your alleyways. this is where it's important to have communication and collaboration with the police department. And then we can bring in those outside entities that can give us some help. I heard the lieutenant say that he's reached out to folks and he has not gotten a response back. That's my job. That's the commander's job. We have to remove barriers. So if you are not being received in a way that you can problem solve and strategize to help the community with whatever issue it is that they're having, then we have a little bit more work that we need to do, because at this point, what we can't do is just point fingers at each other. We have to collaboratively work together. So that means getting the school involved. That means getting whatever other government entities we need to get involved. We assign truancy officers. We're to the point. So to your point, Commissioner, when you say that it's a truancy problem, you're absolutely right. It's a truancy problem, and someone has to own that in that space. And the 3rd District assigned officers during the day work tour actually look for truant. So there's a bit more work that we can do to be more collaborative in that space. We know where the issues are, so we deploy our officers to deal with the issues. And if we need to call someone else in to handle it, then that's what we need to do. And that's what I expect for the team to do up there. And so I'll have a conversation and we'll see how we can collaborate in that space. When I was a 1st District commander, I had the same issue at Eastern, right? It's one thing when kids are not in school, but it's another thing when they're causing disruption and they're making people feel unsafe and they're smoking drugs that they're not supposed to smoke. So there has to be an intervention in there. So we need to work with the principal over at Dunbar to see if we can get some folks out to kind of corral those kids into the school. I have engaged Assistant Chief Pamela Wheeler Taylor, who oversees our Youth and Family Engagement Bureau, with the issues that were going on over at Dunbar, particularly when we were seeing some of the violent crime that was happening, when we had the kids that were getting robbed of their Canadian, their goose coats that they were wearing to school over the winter. So there's some collaboration, and we need to make sure that we're shifting, and that's the space that we're operating in, because what we can't do is point fingers at other government agencies. So I will talk to the commander about that to see what more we can do and who else we can bring in to provide some relief over there.
So Assistant Chief, we will appreciate any and all help that you can provide. And I'm going to add you to an email that this has been going on since November. And I assure you, Principal Smith is well aware of what is going on.
Yep. So we have to take it a little bit further, because right now what we're very clear on in the city is that, there's some things that are happening in with our youth population that we all have to kind of come together around the table, and we got to figure this thing out, right? And so it won't be that it's not my responsibility or somebody else's responsibility. We have to tackle it as a city. And I think to the point, the mayor is very well aware. I don't know if you all watched the Public Safety Summit yesterday. That was a big topic in it. And I know that you all are affected by, now all of our kids are not bad, right? All of our youth, they're not bad. And to the lieutenant's point, when we're talking about quality of life issues, right? It is a little bit of a lower priority when we talk about those carjackings and we talk about the robbery sprees and we talk about guns and all of that. And what I will tell you is that 3D, 4D, 2D have really been affected by the juvenile crime trends, the sprees, particularly the robbery sprees that we're seeing. And those are really the categories of crime that I need the commander of 3D to really hone in and his team focus in on. The robbers, and they do a great job, right? Every weekend in April, there was a robbery spree that was committed by, different groups of juveniles in 3D. Right, between 2 and 3D, right? And so those we're racking up. So I heard someone ask about the stats, and we are up an increase in robberies in 3D, but about a third of those robberies were committed by 4 or 5 sets of juveniles that committed multiple robberies, in a single day or over a week period. And the one thing I can say about the men and women, particularly, in our police department, but definitely in 3D and 4D, in Patrol Services North, they will capture the kids, right? They may hit us, but we will have a swift apprehension, and we have those children identified that are out here committing those crimes, right? And so if not but for, you probably would have a reduction in robberies in 3D. Great. I'm grateful that you have a reduction in homicides in 3D, so far this year. We're gonna keep pushing because we're always focused on the homicide prevention, right? And then we go into robberies, and another issue that you're having is the stolen cars. I know you have heard us say that the Kias and the Hyundais are leading. That's why we've almost doubled the number of stolen cars in the District of Columbia. And that is, you all are affected. And I think it's related, right? You have the kids, the groups of kids that are out robbing, they're also stealing cars, right? And so, yeah, we focus up here on these higher level crimes, and the administration is very much aware that we have to do something with our youth. And some of the kids, when I look at the names, they do have to, we need the AG to prosecute so that they can get the services. I know you have all heard, the challenges that we're having in that space, that they're being released back into community. But I know we're looking at ways as a government, how as a government can we get that family into services, right? Because if kids are out robbing, stealing cars, smoking when they're supposed to be in school, there's something in the family structure that as a government we have to get our hands around, right? And so if we can't get it, through the AG's office, then the mayor is working to get it through DC government, right? And so that is the focus. So it's not falling on deaf ears, right? And I really want us to shift. I think our men and women do a great job, but as management and leaders, we have to shift into actually problem solving with the community. We need to come around, COVID had us around the screen. We're around the screen now, but we have to come back around the table so we can figure this out with the community, the police, other government agencies, the schools, whoever has a role to play in whatever that problem is that's plaguing the community, so we figure out how to tackle that together.
Thank you, Assistant Chief. Grace Reeder from the Mayor's Office asked to be promoted. Ms. Reeder, did you have something that you wanted to add to this discussion?
No, sorry. I was just here to monitor the chat. Thanks.
All right then.
So I think I got promoted before my time, but I wanted to have that conversation, and we can figure out as the leaders of the 3rd District and the management and with the ANCs what that looks like. How do we come around the table and work together? And Lou, if there's any responses that you're not getting, feel free to forward those emails to me so I can facilitate some of this for you.
Definitely.
That's my job. I remove the barriers.
So they do a great job, Assistant Chief. The police do a great job for our area, but it's a higher level problem that's happening, as you pointed out.
And it really is. And there's also, I think, things that we can do in that space if we're collaborating properly. And I think there's some room there for us to do that.
So we do have one other public question. We have Rhonda Watkins. Watkins, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hello, I'm here listening to you about the children in the neighborhood. I'm in the 2G03 area. And of course, we don't have a representative, a commissioner right now, but I am concerned in the uptake in my particular complex unit of the uptake in the drugs that are slowly creeping back in. Mm-hmm. And I've been noticing for the past month. Now I have gotten a little friendly with the officer that has been coming through here. And we've had several discussions on things, everything from expired tags to no tags at all on some of the cars that go in and out of the complex. And my concern is, what can I do as a person in the community, as a person who's really concerned, because I do not want the drug traffic to increase like it was like a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. I was sending emails to the mayor, the commissioners, to the chief of police, to everyone, until it got resolved, all right? But I'm slowly seeing uptake again. And seriously, I believe because of one of the main leaders is now out of prison. Mm-hmm. I've seen him. And this is happening again. I don't want to wait until I see young men who should be in school, sitting in lawn chairs in front of my apartment building, selling weed or ordering, lined up. I just would like to know, what are y'all doing? I live in the Second Northwest Cooperative, and I know that there is so much chatter about the Second Northwest Cooperative, but it's a lot of us in this cooperative that are really concerned about our safety. And I'm at the point where, what else can we do other than get on here or talk to the officers on the beat or send emails? What else is being planned? What do you have in the plans to help us out? We're ready to help, but you have to tell us what we need to do, how we can help. I came outside the other night. I thought it was a fire by my car. There were individuals lined up smoking weed. That's how much smoke that was there by my car. They didn't live in this complex. So I'm trying to figure out, what can we do? I just heard you say pick up 911. It was you or the lieutenant, one of them. That's what I should have did at that time. Pick up 911, pick up the phone and call 911. But I just need to know how it's going to be addressed or how we can help.
Yeah, I think, what's the address of your co-op, ma'am?
Our co-op is.
Oh, well, you don't, never mind, I forgot. There's a public out here. You don't have to put your address.
Yeah,
up.
that's right.
I will. So how about this? Will you do me a favor? And this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that we need to collaborate. So you're on here, and you were saying, how do I get the attention that I need? And that is exactly what I want to hear from y'all. And we need to be connected to your PSA managers, and to your sector managers, and you need to have phone numbers and emails so that you can reach out and you can share that information, right? So, and then we can work together. Is it a private? Send me an email.
All right.
Are you looking in the chat at all? Or
yes, I am. I'm looking in the chat right now.
I'm going to put my email and my cell phone number in the chat for whoever needs it. But what you're talking about is exactly the way that we need to collaborate. And if we're hearing this, then we get our partners involved. We ask VCSD, our narcotics unit, to come over and do something. That's where the collaboration and the communication internally needs to happen here. When we're talking about the criminal activity and the criminal the drug dealing. Now, what I will say is that, and I can say this, depending. I sent it. Maybe I'm not sending it. Can I send it? Papa?
Your email went to the chat, but not your cell phone.
You see,
So you sent it to hosts and panelists.
I don't know how to. I don't see where I can just send it to everybody. Can you just drop it in there for me, please, Commissioner?
Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you. But this is exactly what you're talking about, where we can identify that issue and then we work together and we get the right people around the table to deal with it. But I strongly encourage you, and I know the lieutenant was saying it earlier, I think that's a circumstance where you should call 911, right? But also on the flip side of it, knowing who your managers are, being able to contact them, and you all are problem solving together, right? We're not going to solve it in one 911 call. That's a problem that we have to address over time.
When you say knowing who your managers are, exactly who you're speaking about?
I'm speaking about the lieutenants, like Lieutenant Miller.
Okay.
Captain Chris Moore. Like, there has to be that communication, right? They have to be accessible to you, and be responsive to you in that space, so that we can hear what your concerns are, understand what it is you're seeing, so that we know how to deploy, the limited resources and the limited personnel that we have, so that we're very intentional and we're dealing with the problems that are plaguing the community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, okay. So I put my information in. I'll connect you with your team if you send me a message.
All right, that was the last public question that we had. So we'll now transition to our special guest. So we're pleased to be joined by Assistant Chief Police Morgan Kane from Patrol Services North, and she's already introduced herself. So Assistant Chief Kane, I believe that you have some initial remarks that you'd like to make, and I know that many of us have questions.
Okay, and I'm gonna save all of the time for questions, because I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know how we can best partner and serve. So I will not be long-winded in introducing myself, but I am Morgan Kane. I hit my 25 years with MPD this year. Before I was in this position over Patrol Services North, which is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th patrol districts. I stood up our Technical and Analytical Services Bureau, which has all of our IT, front-facing business services, fleet, those types of things. But what was near and dear to my heart was the 5 years that I spent almost 1 month shy as the 1st district commander. And I know you all border and kind of bleed over into the 1st district, Chinatown and along New York Avenue. So my philosophy, I think I just explained it to you. You heard it. I like to be collaborative. I like to make sure we're communicating. And I think it's vitally important that we are talking to you and hearing what your concerns are, right? Because of course we are intelligence driven, we're data driven, we have technology incorporated in everything that it is we do. We watch crime. I have it coming in for 4 districts. It comes in. If there is a violent offense that happens, I get notified of it. There's a stolen car that happens in one of those 4 districts, I get notified of it. And I think that is the way that we know how to redirect our limited resources that we have. But I also believe in hearing from you all so that I know what's concerning you. Because what right now I know that we're dealing with, we have a population that folks just don't feel safe. Right? I could tell you that homicides was down in the 3rd district. I could tell you that homicides down, in all of my, my 4 districts, Patrol Services North, that our homicides are down, but that doesn't mean anything to you all if you don't feel safe when you walk outside. And so we know we have some work to do in that area. And I am excited to do it. It's the cornerstone of how I ran my district at 1D. So I wanted to be here tonight to make sure that you all heard from me. You could get in touch with me, but I really want to hear what your questions and your concerns are. And for those of you that don't know, I live in Washington, D.C. I have an 8-year-old son here that I'm raising. So I am invested in the safety of our city. So I just am really excited to see what we do when we go back to boots on the ground collaboration. See, I said I wasn't going to be long.
Well, thank you very much, and we definitely do appreciate you spending some time with us this evening. I'd like to start out with any questions or comments from members of the commission. So if there are members of the commission that would like to address an issue or a question to the Assistant Chief, please indicate that now. If not, I will take the privilege before we go to the public. And I see Commissioner Nigro is raising her hand.
So I'm just going to say publicly, because I always say it, I said to you on a phone call today, we would love a fit patrol in 2G06. Saying it publicly.
I know.
It would be greatly appreciated. I'll say it for the 1000th time.
I know, and I hear you. And as soon as we get back up to those numbers where we have enough resources. Are you all familiar with the Focus Patrol strategy that was rolled out a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, but where are they?
Why don't you share that, because I know that many folks aren't aware.
Yeah, and so in the spirit of what we just talked about, right? Because we know that, especially coming out of COVID, right? We wanted to ensure that what's going to be vital in this crime prevention fight that we're in right now is that we are out walking, that we are out engaging. We have historically, and I did this myself, at the 1st district, where we assign people to very small areas, and that's where they're at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? But guess what has happened? Our numbers, the number of personnel that we have, it doesn't allow for that strategy anymore. And then we've done some research with George Mason University where hotspot, focused policing is really the way to go. It pays dividends. Think about how many times you have come through an area where the commander's like, I need a car right here, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? And what do you kind of see those officers doing? Because I know I get the complaints.
In the car.
In the car. scrolling on the phone, right?
Yeah.
And we were to a point where we see something would happen down the street and the officer was there, right? But it was not implemented the way that it was intended to be, right? If you're putting the resources over there, you expect for the officers to get out the car and engage. But over the last couple of years with COVID, what did we stop doing with each other? We stopped engaging. We stopped talking to people. We changed the way that we did business and people were isolated, right? And so now we have to come out of that. And the focus patrol areas, what we did was we eliminated those fixed posts, right? Those small geographical areas. We went to what does the research say? What does science say? And what it is if you increase your patrols, right? Once every couple of hours, 10 to 15 minutes, you spend walking in an area, right? And you're engaging the community, you're engaging the people that might be over there selling drugs or, the Nador Wells. I know I said that wrong, but the people that are not out there doing the right thing, you engage businesses, you see what is actually going on. It's just a way of community policing. So in each district, they've had to identify four areas, and they're small areas where we are going to implement the focus patrol, where every couple hours they have to get out, walk around, talk to people. And what you get is not necessarily, you don't get a displacement of the crime, which is what you do when you have someone just stationed somewhere. You actually stop what that behavior is, and you establish a new norm. And that is what the professors over at GDA has studied for years. And the one thing that has been consistent is when you talk about, there are about 7 different policing strategies out there, right? And the one that has been consistent as being effective is this strategy that we're employing here. Now, does that mean that we don't pay attention to the rest of the area? These are just the areas where we have the highest violent crime in the district. It's the 4 areas in each one of the 7 districts that has the highest violent crime. And so we've deployed that strategy, but that does not mean that the commanders are not still responsible for ensuring that we're engaged in community policing in the rest of their district. So I've talked to my commanders, we have to shift that. We have the focus patrol, but we need to make sure that when officers are not on calls for service, which we know the calls for service are high in the 3rd district, we know that their staffing isn't necessarily as high as we would need it to be, but that's throughout the department. Remember, we couldn't hire for a year. And so when we can't hire, you still have retirements, you still have people separating from the agency, and we're not able to backfill. And that really, really hurt us. And so we're in a posture of figuring out how we can, the core functions of what it is that we need to do to make sure that we are being very intentional and deliberate in that space so that we can deliver those. And so we're working through how else do we streamline other responsibilities? And for me, that's bringing other agencies in to be accountable where they need to be accountable for what their charter is, right? And so that is, force multipliers. But I say that to say, thank you, Grace, for putting that in there. I say that to say that I work with the commanders to make sure that you see where I got on the call and I said, but wait a minute, we can collaborate. We can do some things with the kids that are smoking weed and all of that. That is the focus of getting the entire team thinking and responding that way when we're talking to the community.
Commissioner Barry has her hand up.
Hello, Assistant Chief Kane. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being at our meeting and for being willing to collaborate. I like that you're open to solutions for the kids other than arresting them, because, kids are young, their brains aren't fully developed. A lot could happen in this time. They can make a mistake and then turn around and be an outstanding citizen later on down the line. I was wondering if there's any enrichment programs, like if you would be willing to work with us to do something like that, maybe with children who are offenders, like, juveniles, like maybe community service that we could put in place so that they would not want to do that they know beforehand, this is what's going to happen. I mean, especially if it's not violent. And also to make a suggestion, On the street that I live on, there's a police car parked and there's no police car. There's no police in it. And then there's a police car further down near the Kennedy Recreation Center. And there is oftentimes a police officer in that car. But like you said, he's scrolling. Maybe, you know, what I've noticed is that criminals watch the police just as much as the police watch the criminals.
Probably more so.
Right. And they look for a pattern. They look for repetition. They look for your schedule. And so they know when they can go in and make their moves.
Mhm.
And maybe switching that up a little bit, like changing the routine a little bit so that they're thrown off.
Yep.
Because, you know, that's when a lot of crime happens. It could be like just that one time where that officer had his break. It's like, oh, well, that happened while he was on his break. Well, who knew he was on his break other than, you know, his colleagues, people watching him.
Yep.
So that was my suggestion for that. But I really wanted to know if you were open to collaboration with working with some of these children, because a lot of these kids are getting records.
Yep.
And, you know, we definitely want to, you know, slow that down as much as possible, because crime grows. Like you start doing something small and then it escalates. And next thing you know, you have a felony and your whole life is messed up. And we don't want that for 15, 16-year-olds making bad decisions, especially if it's something that we can step in, if the community, if the government has failed them in some way. You know, I say government because, you know, a child not eating at home could be a reason why they're stealing. You know, that's something that parents have to deal with, but it's also, you know, children need to be able to eat.
Yeah.
A lot of times they get that meal at school.
Yep.
And so, it's a lot of things that we could do to circumvent these issues that we have.
And I think that now that conversation we could probably have for hours on top of hours, right? And I don't disagree that we have children that are in crisis, right? And so I absolutely any way that I can engage, right? What has been what we have seen, and this is why we are at a level where there has to be, now I'm going to say the word accountability, and then I'm going to tell you what I mean when I say that, right? But we are seeing kids that are getting arrested for the first time, right? And it's for violent offenses. Their first arrest isn't, you know, something that is small. It's they put a gun in somebody's face. They stole a car and committed a robbery spree. They're shooting. You know, our kids, when it comes to the violent activity, right? That has to be something where they've got to come off of the street, right? Whether that is through prosecution, whether that is through you must go to get these services, something has to happen to keep that child safe and keep the community safe. And what we've been seeing is the behavior that they're engaging in. We got to pull them out. We can't just leave them on the street, because this is why we're having a conversation with the lieutenant talking about the carjackings, the shootings, and all of these things that's happening. So for me, that's kind of a bright line where we have to protect the community. So we got to pull them out, whether we're giving them services, whatever that looks like. But to your point, I'm 1,000,000% on board being part of the prevention and the outreach up front. And the agency, I know MPD, you know, we have a whole youth and family engagement bureau. There are so many outreach activities that we're doing with our kids to try to get them into safe places and spaces and show them what the potential can be, what their potential can be, in spite of the circumstances that they're finding themselves in right now. I think DC government as a whole, there's a lot of effort there, but we're still missing something, which I think really, you take the small number of kids that's out here committing a violent crime, and we can take them over here and get them on a good foot, but find ways to provide help and services to the other kids so that they stay on a good foot, I think is where we have to focus in on.
Yeah.
I'm a partner. Count me in.
Okay.
Let me know what you need me to do.
All right. I'm gonna hold you to it. Okay.
I'm gonna be there.
Okay.
I might have an 8-year-old with me, but I'm coming.
Understand.
So I'm going to ask a couple of questions of the Assistant Chief, but I'd like folks in the audience to start raising their hands so that we can acknowledge you and allow you to ask your questions of Assistant Chief Kane as well. So Assistant Chief Kane, I think one of the biggest issues that we have today is that, as you noted, correctly in your introductory remarks, that even though the numbers don't seem like they would bear it up, people do not feel safe.
Mhm.
There is a sense of lawlessness in our communities. In many cases, as a result of the post-pandemic challenges that we have had as a society, that MPD has had in terms of its staffing levels, that the courts, have influenced by releasing individuals that are arrested often overnight or almost immediately. Folks, and just what folks are encountering on the street when they're seeing significant numbers of individuals that are suffering from drug addiction and are demonstrating violence and are going into businesses and assaulting business owners and customers and driving out customers. We've actually had businesses in the neighborhood closed permanently because they did not feel that their staff were able to be made safe, kept safe in the area. Are there any observations that you can share about what's the hope of us being able to get back to that pre-pandemic normal where people actually did feel safer and had been feeling safer for a good 10 plus years in this neighborhood as a result of a lot of great work by Metropolitan Police Department, but also collaborations with different agencies and nonprofits and the citizenry in general.
Yep, I think you hit the nail on the head with your last couple of sentences, right? We have to have that collaboration and work together with the mental health services, the nonprofits, right? It has to be a more coordinated approach, I think. I think everybody's doing their work in their own respective lanes, but sometimes these lanes have to cross and we have to coordinate and we have to pull people in to do the work that needs to be done. I think there's an opportunity there for that. I also think if you watched the mayor's public safety summit yesterday, part of that discussion, right, which has just recently come out, was that the judges, when we talk about what folks like to say, the revolving door, right? You mentioned it. Sometimes they're out right away, sometimes they're out the next day, and they're back, and they're violent offenders, right? What we realize is that the judges there's a law from 1992 that the judges were following that says they have this high barrier to it's on the government to show that someone needs to be held and that they are a danger to society. The presumption is that people will be released pending, their trial or whatever that looks like, right? Whatever those next steps in that prosecution system looks like. And unbeknownst, right? This is what the judges are using to make decisions on release. And they felt like their hands were tied in those spaces. So I know the mayor and her team are looking at how we can do something with that legislation, right? Because that's a council imposed legislation that they will have, between the executive and the council, that there will be some sort of, I think, if I heard it correctly, she'll be looking to introduce some sort of legislation, but we have to fix that law. Another part of the public safety summit, you had your prosecutors that were there, right? The U.S. Attorney and the AG were there explaining how they make decisions. I still with prosecutions, and I still think there's work to be done in that space so that we can fill in the gap, because there's a gap where people are falling through and able to come back out on the street. So it's twofold, right? It's bringing the behavioral health folks out, having better coordination with the nonprofits, and then what the executive with the mayor is doing to fix these gaps that allows violent offenders to still be on our streets.
Well, thank you for that. Believe it or not, even though we have 63 attendees in the audience? No one is raising their hands. We've got a very shy audience today, which is surprising.
I see 70 participants. No one has a question.
Yeah, no, I guess, hold on a second. It looks like someone now. Oh, now we've got some folks. Let's see here. Okay, we have Minnie. Minnie, go ahead and unmute and ask your question to Assistant Chief Kane.
Hello, Assistant Chief. I'm an educator in the city. I'm also a resident of DC now. And one of the concerns that bothers me the most is that I know you talked about the Mayor's Summit and how some legislation is being brought about to deal with, I guess, the laws that are in place. Well, one of those things is that there's no suspension in DC. And what I mean by that is that typically your school tries to stay under 20 suspensions per school year. So those students or those kids that are the troublemakers that we want to kind of say, oh, well, you know, they're kids, we don't want them to have a record. There's no accountability. So even at this point, you can kind of like tell my frustration, but at this point, there is nothing being done. Parents are not being held accountable. So kids are able to do whatever they like. Parents come up to schools, they cut up at schools, and then they do it, you know, over and over again, because when you call the police, it's almost like, oh, well, you know, it's just a parent upset. Well, I'm a parent too. And I don't go and act out at a kid's school just because I'm upset about something. But it's like certain people are able to get away with a whole lot. That lawlessness is a true thing. And while I do not want to see my students handcuffed and put in jail or have records, the reality is that some people just need to be held accountable. We can't just say, oh, it's a kid, nothing needs to happen. So how can we, I don't know at this point how parents and families can be held accountable for these kids and the kids themselves.
Yep. So in that, thank you for that. So part of the conversation, we had a breakout session yesterday on juveniles where the mayor was present, the chancellor was present, court social supervision was present, Department of Youth Rehabilitative Services, Department of Mental Health, DHS, all present, right? And just what you talked about with the no suspension was something that the chancellor brought up in that room as something that we need to relook at, and there needs to be that consequence. Miss where'd she go? She left. Miss Minnie. And so that is something that it was brought up and talked about heartily yesterday. So that I know that's a takeaway in that space. Now, I will tell you this, and I'm sure you all are aware that a couple of years ago, there was legislation by the council imposed that our school resource officers have to attrit down over the next couple of years to a point until we have none. So it was 60 last July, it'll be 40 this July, and then 20 until we have none. A couple of council members introduced legislation to repeal that through the budget, right? Because we need our SROs. They're specifically trained, they're specially trained, you know, to be in schools, but that will still be an impediment because we weren't able to hire, so our staffing, but we just need to repeal that part of it. Now, I will tell you, this is what I believe, and this is what I expect, and we just did this at an elementary school by Cardoza a couple of months ago, maybe. My time kind of runs together. I don't believe parents should be able to come up to school and cut up. If a parent is coming up to school and they are threatening, you know, staff, there is a process for that. And whether that's through, you know, the central office where we get them barred, the parent gets barred from the school. I do believe in, and if they violate that bar notice and they threaten a staff member, a principal, a teacher, that they will be arrested. Period. We just did it a couple of months ago and we'll do it again because that's part of the problem. And we can't have that in our learning environment where our kids have to go to get educated. We're already a tad bit, COVID put us, behind the curve a little bit. But we have to have real consequences for that. And that's something we can collaborate on.
All right, we have Carolyn. Carolyn, please unmute and ask your question.
Yes, my question is, what should we do when we see, like, what can we as residents do to help address all of these issues? When I see kids in the back alley who are defecating, fighting, smoking weed, counting their money, I call the police. I go out there. I've gone around and I've talked to all of my neighbors. My neighbors try to call the police. It takes 5 minutes for somebody to answer from 911 right now. The police come, but they're 15 minutes late and the kids have already left. I've walked over to Cardozo and I've talked to the school people and asked them what to do. So I am trying as hard as I can to address this. It's completely unacceptable. I have a 10-month-old baby and I'm about to leave the city because I do not feel safe. So these children or their parents, there has to be consequences for their behavior. It's unacceptable to take a shit in front of somebody's house. It's unacceptable to wave money in an alley or smoke weed or fight with a taser. So I like, action must be taken now, and everything you're saying is right, but then there's no change in behavior.
Right.
So I'd like to understand what I can do differently. I've just told you everything I've done. And I'd like to understand when change will actually happen.
Fair. That's a great question. And in the space, I know you're calling 911. I do think that it is worthy of calling the administrators around the table. I'll get my counterpart, Youth and Family Engagement Bureau, and we have to have a sit down, right? We have to have a conversation. There are security officers at schools. There are outreach workers at schools. So we really have to talk to the school to get some accountability in that space for the children. What can we do differently? What agencies do we need to call in to help, right? That's what I mean when I say coming around the table and kind of strategize and how we tackle this issue and tackle this problem. And I think that we can start there in that space.
I would like to be a part of that roundtable. I would love to be a part of that. I'm available to be a part of that whenever it is scheduled.
Yeah.
Because something has to change, or at this point, I'm just leaving the city. I mean, and that's what's going to happen to everyone.
Yeah, we don't want that. We definitely don't want that. I told you I live in the city, so I get it. So in that space, if you can just look in the chat and just send me an email so we can get this conversation started. And I can pull in the people that I need to pull in. And I say that the same thing for you, Ms. Minnie. If you send me an email so that I can pull in the people that I need to pull in so that we can start working together in this space.
So let me remind Assistant Chief Keem, I'm gonna add you to the email so you can see everyone who's been involved thus far.
With this,
what she's talking about.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And Sharonda Watkins will have the last question for Assistant Chief. Go ahead, Sharonda.
I don't know if this is a question. Well, I guess it is a question because you're now talking about the children. And I know I talked about the drug dealers, the uptake in the drug dealing in the co-op. But I also believe or see, I'm not going to say believe, I see it, the children from the particular unit riding around late at night on bicycles. And I'm talking about elementary school boys. And these are the same boys that are living in the same unit. And I know I've seen a lot of, at least 4 of them at home during the day when they should be in school.
Oh, Carla, you gotta call, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
so not just holding the children accountable, but whoever their parents is, whoever their caregiver is in that unit should be, somebody need to knock on that door and say, your child has not been in school, or why is not your child in school? And I mean, I just presume it's probably because of a lot of the drug activity. I don't know. But being a person who works in a jail, in a treatment facility, in a jail, and all I ever hear with the young men that are there, or the older middle-aged ones, tell me that they started this life of crime at the age of 10 and 11, smoking weed or using drugs. I understand that homicide is a big issue in DC. I'm a native resident. I am a native Washingtonian. And I know homicide is a big issue. I would have never thought it would get this bad. But I think if we start addressing, like I was glad to hear you say you went to the elementary school by Cardoza, then maybe if we can start addressing, or not just going to one elementary school, if y'all have any kind of plan in place to start addressing the elementary school and the middle school students before they move, until before they end up in the alley going to high school, staying out in the alley smoking weed. I just want to know if y'all have any plans.
So I hear you, Ms. Watkins, right? I also want you to remember, and I think MPD, we are busting our tails, trying to reach these kids. But there is a responsibility. There's a whole school system set up to do this as well that we have to bring into this conversation. And I know you're asking me in this moment what MPD is going to do about the kids and the behavior in the school. It's the collaboration, right? So immediately when I'm listening to you talk about the kids that are not in school, I'm thinking, okay, we got to call, CFSA if the kids are not going to school, right? We got to have a conversation somewhere, right? We got to figure out, remember we said we're identifying the gaps in the system and filling those holes, right? And so that's what I mean when I say we got to bring everybody around the table that plays a role in this. And so when we talk about the children, right, it's more than just MPD that's involved in that space, that has a responsibility. And I want to make sure that we're working with them and bringing them into your space so that we can address the concerns that you have.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. Assistant Chief Kane, there's a question from Kenyatta Robinson in the chat about how the daily crime reports appear. If it's possible to get them so the body of the report is actually in the email rather than as a PDF attachment. Apparently that's how they used to be presented, and that was more convenient for folks that are handheld users. I don't know if that's something.
Is this the Kenyatta that I know from the SID?
Yes, it is.
Kenyatta, can you send me an email and I forward it over to IT?
Okay, I'm sure that Kenyatta will do that.
And Miss Minnie, thank you, Kenyatta. So yes, you're right. And I think, and one of the gaps, Miss Minnie, is that what happens, right, when kids are truant, right? What does so we pick up kids, right? I have officers that we've already this year picked up just up under 2,200 kids that were truant from school citywide. We take them back to school and turn them over to an administrator. The question I have, and really, the question that we all have, and we have to get more clarity, is what happens in the school? What's the process after we bring the truants back to school? What does that look like? So I see you saying y'all are calling looking for the kids and you get cursed out and the student remains missing from class. We have to do something with that. And so I know that is the top to bottom look that the mayor is committed to doing, who play, and it's a critical look, right? We're taking a critical look at ourselves as well on where we need to fill in the gaps with what we're doing. And so I can tell you that was definitely a topic of conversation and something that the entire team is looking into. But I would be curious when you send me an email, send me your phone number so I can call you as well.
Great. There is an item related to MPD a little later in our agenda. I don't know if Commissioner Nigra wants to take a moment to make sure that, that you're aware of the situation.
How far is that? I know we must be.
She knows.
Oh, I do. I just don't. The thing with it, I can help as much as I can in the conversation. but it's not, MPD doesn't necessarily have, this isn't in our wheelhouse.
We spoke today, so she's ready to do her talking point.
Are we rolling? Yeah, we.
Not yet, not yet.
Oh, not yet.
So, Assistant Chief Kane, if you're able to stay with us, we do have some announcements that we have to go through from district government agency representatives. But if you're able to stay with us, we'd love to have you there for that discussion on the 6th item on the agenda on 501 New York Avenue.
Yep, I will have to. I probably at 7:39. I'm in the office. I have to get my kids, so I will do it from the car. I'll call back in from the car. Is that fine?
That would be fine.
Yes. Okay.
We would welcome that.
All right. Okay. So I will switch over to my phone now then.
Great, thank you, and thank you also, Lieutenant Miller, for having stayed through the discussion.
All right, I'll see you guys next month.
Great, thank you much.
All right.
All right, so we're going to move on to announcements from district government officials. And I know that Grace Reeder is with us from the mayor's office. Let's see if Grace has been, oh, maybe Grace has dropped off. That doesn't look like, oh, here she goes. So Grace is with the Mayor's Office of Constituent Relations and Services. You can go ahead and unmute, Grace.
Hi, everyone. Give me just 1 second. Trying to share my screen. Oh, don't think, am I allowed to share my screen? It's okay if not, I don't have
I
to.
need to enable you to do that, so hang on a second. Go ahead now.
Awesome. Let's see. Okay, hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Grace Reeder. I'm the Ward 2 liaison for the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. So before I get started, I want to just really quickly give a shout out to Assistant Chief Kane for coming and speaking with us this evening. Originally, we were going to do a budget presentation, but since you guys got one last month, I thought this would be more helpful to talk about public safety. So I really hope you guys enjoyed that discussion, and any questions you have further, feel free to send to me or to Assistant Chief Kane as well, and we can continue your ideas and discussion from there. Additionally, we send out, the Ward 2 Mokers send out a bi-weekly newsletter. So if you would like to be added to that, just either drop that in the chat with your email or shoot me an email at grace.reeder@dc.gov, and I'll add you to that email list so you can stay up to date on DC government operations, upcoming events, and more. So this is not working. There we go. So on Wednesday, May 10th, yesterday, Mayor Bowser joined district public safety officials and key stakeholders to discuss the state of crime trends in the district. The public safety summit built on meetings Mayor Bowser recently held on safety with school leaders and advisory neighborhood commissioners. If you have specific questions or feedback about that, please feel free to send me an email and I'll share your questions or feedback with senior leadership. And I'll also send out in the weekly newsletter some updates that are going to be coming about public safety strategy. So I'll be sure to share that with you all at the next meeting and on the email list. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and Mayor Bowser attended several events celebrating the role teachers play for the youth in our city. The mayor's fiscal year 2024 budget proposal also includes investments to attract and retain top teachers, including $97 million to ensure that every DCPS teacher will receive and every public charter school teacher will be eligible to receive a 12.5% raise next year, and $1.6 million to create the district's first teacher apprenticeship program, offering a tuition-free paid pathway to become a teacher and grow DC's local talent pipeline. As we're almost done with budget discussion, as the DC Council is going to be voting on the FY 2024 budget soon. And it's more important now than ever that you join me and residents all over the city and calling on council members to pass a budget that supports DC's comeback and invests in the priorities that you would like to see. Many of the current initiatives and proposed investments in the mayor's budget support the three-pronged approach to the transformation and revitalization of downtown, with talking about filling the space, changing the space, and bringing the people. And some of her proposed investments have been cut. Just one example of this is for the Committee on Business and Economic Development decision to cut the $1.5 million festival fund recovery to offset costs for community organizations hosting an event in DC. This means that, for example, the Capitol Pride Parade and Festival next year will not be able to take place if the money is not there in the budget to fund that event and host that event. This historic celebration is very important to the LGBTQIA community in DC, and it's also just not the direction we want to take ahead of DC's hosting of World Pride in 2025. So I ask you all to join me in asking DC Council to fund investments in DC and DC's comeback. And you can learn more about Mayor Bowser's fiscal year 2024 budget by visiting budget.dc.gov. And you can read more about the district's comeback plan at comeback.dc.gov. DPW's curbside composting pilot program deadline was extended to May 19th. And I'll drop all of this information in the chat once I finish the presentation. But the deadline has been extended. So you can go to zerowaste.dc.gov for the application link. It's starting this summer. So it's a free weekly curbside collection of food waste. So I encourage you all to apply. Also, just so you know, DPW has year-round yard waste collection. So you can place excess yard waste in paper yard waste bags. Yard waste in plastic bags are not going to be collected. If you have any questions about that, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to work with you to get those questions answered. Some important events that are taking place. On Saturday, DC's annual citywide baby shower is happening. So please feel free to share with all new and expecting parents and invite them to attend. It will be on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Culture House DC. You can join. The event will have information on paid family leave. We'll have panel discussions with parenting experts, educational sessions on baby CPR, nutrition, and more. And then there's also resources for community organizations. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, or you can visit the link in the graphic here or scan below, or you can visit the Mayor's Office of Women's Policy and Innovations Twitter account for more information and to register for the event. We all know how important it is for residents of all ages to stay active, and it's even better when you're surrounded by the community. So that's why Mayor Bowser would like to invite everyone of our seniors to enjoy the springtime and get moving with DPR's Senior Walking Club. This graphic here shows some dates that this will be taking place. And you can also register for the next meetup at the link that I will drop in the chat. Outside of that, you can schedule walks with either Christopher Powell or I on Tuesdays and Fridays. Just send us a time via text or email, especially if there's something you want to discuss or if you just want to get to know us better. Feel free to submit a walk time with us. Other than that, this is my contact information as well as my partner, Christopher Powell's. So feel free to reach out at any point. And other than that, I'll open up the floor for questions.
All right, questions for our MOCR from members of the commission? And seeing none, questions from attendees, please raise your hand.
Jaron Price from downtown DC bid has something. He just wanted to flag that these funds in the festival fund support many important community events throughout downtown, including the downtown holiday market and the annual Lunar New Year parade, amongst many others, in addition to the Pride Parade, just so everyone knows that. But community questions.
Yeah, yes, so anyone from the community that would like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature, or if you're on the phones, use *69. And I'm not seeing any questions for Grace. So Grace, thank you for being available this evening.
Yeah, of course. And I'm gonna drop all this information in the chat. I know I ran through it quickly. So you'll have that there as well as in your meeting notes. Thanks,
Great.
guys.
Thank you so much for that. And then we have Brian Romanowski from Councilmember Pinto's office. Go ahead and unmute Brian.
Hey everyone, I'm also going to share my screen, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, did that work?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, it's good to see you all. I just want to start off with a few photos from around the neighborhood. So this is the Earth Day cleanup that Councilmember Pinto hosted with Shaw Main Streets and district cleanups, which had a really impressive turnout. As you can see there, that's at Bundy Field. And then Councilmember Pinto attended services, I think last weekend at Shiloh Baptist Church. So we are now in the sleepless and most stressful days of budget season. Final negotiations are underway, and the first budget vote is this coming Tuesday, the 16th, with a final vote in early June. Councilmember Pinto is fighting hard to make sure your Ward 2 priorities are included in the final budget. As you probably know, she now chairs the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety. The committee released their 136-page draft budget a few weeks ago. Councilmember Pinto sees this budget as a blueprint for making DC safer and for making you safer, and that remains her top priority. We are funding, which slides? We are funding new safe commercial corridor grants to help keep our main streets safer, and funding violence interruption and community-based crime prevention programs that have proven results. There's also a new pilot program for enhanced security and custodial services at schools that function as public playgrounds and fields. And this is a big deal for Shaw because the pilot is intended for Garrison and Banneker, and will also allow them to upgrade their cameras and add cameras to field areas. We're hopeful that this is going to solve some of the access issues that we've had at these public facilities. The budget also funding for MPD to recruit and retain officers, which is critical to ensuring faster response times and increasing patrols, as I know you just spoke about at length with Assistant Chief Kane. There's also funding to allow schools to retain school resource officers, which is another thing that just came up. Support for the Department of Forensic Sciences to ensure accurate and timely evidence analysis. The budget also promotes data collection and sharing by allowing the Office of the Attorney General to hire data analysts, which they currently don't have. And it also strengthens OAG's ability to penalize folks who are illegally dumping, which can be an issue a lot around Ward 2. And it also restores funding for victim services and legal aid that were not in the mayor's proposed budget. And while we're talking about public safety, I just want to say that we really enjoyed working with MPD Chief Conti, who's departing, and Councilmember Pinto looks forward to working to confirm a new chief who is ready to take on the very serious public safety challenges that we're facing. A few other budget notes for Shaw. There's $200,000 to help with public safety and substance abuse issues around the Howard Theater area. Funding for a recording studio inside the Kennedy Rec Center, which was requested by many teens in the area. And we're also, we were able to include a requirement that DDOT adds an option for repairs to porous flexible pavement on sidewalks via 311, and that's currently not an option. Councilmember Pinto is also working to add additional funding to the emergency rental assistance program, which is going to be seriously strained the next fiscal year. And then another issue that I know a lot of folks in 2G are passionate about is the trash compactor grant program. The mayor's budget actually cut this program, and we are working hard to restore funding as we actually sought to expand the program this year. So I just do want to mention that if you feel strongly about the trash compactor program, please contact Chairman Mendelson. He needs to hear from folks in Shaw that this is an important program and that it needs funding. And it's not a lot of funding. I think it's like $500,000 in the grand comparison of the budget. But it's to the point where, since everyone's voting on Tuesday, the chairman is kind of the person to talk to at this point. So that's everything on the budget. In terms of other things, as we get ready for summer, Councilmember Pinto sent a letter to the Construction Code Coordinating Board, asking them to reevaluate the time frame that residential buildings with central air are required to turn the air conditioning on. Currently, the law says that buildings are required to have it on from May 15th to September 15th. But the last update to that was in 2017, and we know climate change has only made this issue more pronounced. Councilmember Henderson also introduced legislation that Councilmember Pinto is co-sponsoring that would change those dates to April 15th and October 31st. There's obviously, room for debate on this, so there's going to be hearings held on the bill, and they'll need to work out how this will work for buildings that cannot switch easily. Some buildings that are older, it takes days to switch over. Let's see, a few other things. Next month, Councilmember Pinto will be marching in the Capitol Pride Parade, which is on Saturday, June 10th. So if you'd like to march with our office, I'll post a sign up link in the chat. And then finally, you can sign up for our newsletter, of course, at brookpintodc.com. It goes out at least every 2 weeks, sometimes more. And you'll get all this information and more from our great communications team. Or you can email me or give me a call. And I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for all that information. Questions for Brian from members of the commission? And seeing none. Oops, one minute. Hold on a second. Who raised their hand? Let's see, we've got a question from the public. Jackie Delaney. Jackie, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Delaney. I'm not sure if this is the right person to address my question to. I'm a senior and I normally swim at the pool, I'm sorry, Turkey Thicket. I have a bad arthritis because I go to Turkey Thicket because they have a hot tub. That hot tub is always broken. The therapeutic pool in Southeast is being renovated. I wanted to find out if they're going to fix or keep the pool of the hot tub in Turkey Thicket available so seniors can come and swim because the water is just too cold. And I don't know if this is the right place to address that, but I want to get back in the water. And I need a pool that the temperature can't be but so cold because of arthritis. So that's my question. What pool in the district is available? And I don't know if this is the right person to address the question with.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Ms. Delaney. And I've heard that from other folks as well while the other pool is under construction. I didn't know about the Turkey Thicket hot tub though. I know Grace is just posting in the chat some links to some of the other pools around the city, but I'm also happy to talk to DPR and see if they have an update on the repairs at Turkey Thicket. So if you want to post your email in the chat, it's probably easier if I just contact them and loop you in.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then we have Mateo. Mateo, go ahead and unmute.
Hello, I'm Matteo. I already made a point earlier about safety.
Oops. Mateo, did we lose you? Mateo.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Finish your point.
Sorry. So I already made the point earlier with about safety with the police officers, but I wanted to restate it. I'm a very, very unhappy and disappointed taxpayer of Ward 2. I believe that Council Member Pinto's plan to revitalize downtown will fail unless the council starts enacting the law and starts to push for accountability. It is not acceptable to see groups of ATVs and dirt bikes storming the city with no consequences. It's not acceptable to see people walking out of CVS stores with stolen merchandises and no consequences. I made the point, I sent many emails to Councilmember Pinto and no responses. We need to enforce the law now. And the city council has not acted on it. The point they try to change the code, lowering the penalties, it's not going the right direction. The fun police did not work. We need to enact the law today. Otherwise, people will leave the city. High taxpayers will leave the city, and the city center will not come back to where it was. So very, very unhappy with what the council is doing today, and wanted to share this, my point with you. Finally, a point about cleanliness. There is a lot of trash everywhere in the city, especially on M Street. M Street is a highly trafficked commuter street, and people are just trashing the street on a daily basis, and nothing has been done. I really hope you and the council and Brooke Pinto can take this problem and solve it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mateo. Definitely hear you on the trash issue. That's one of the issues that we're hoping to address by allowing the Office of the Attorney General to go after illegal dumping more. But I know that on M Street, it's a smaller problem of, well, less of a one big suspect dumping and more of people just throwing things out of their cars as they drive through. And then there's also the issue of DPW doing a better job of not dropping trash that they're collecting from residential bins as they're putting it into the trucks to take away. On the public safety front, also hear you, and I appreciate you saying that about downtown's recovery, because Councilmember Pinto completely agrees that a major issue for downtown recovery and for the entire city's recovery is that it needs to be safe. And businesses aren't going to open here. They're not going to stay open here if they don't feel safe, or if they feel like their, goods are getting stolen every day. Like you've said with the CVS, and I think we've all seen the videos of that sort of crime being committed. So we know that that's just the number one thing that needs to be addressed in order to make people feel safe and want to stay in DC.
All right, Carolyn, please unmute and ask your question.
I have two questions.
Oops. Carolyn, you still there?
Brian, have you been on this call the entire time?
Yes.
Okay, so you heard. So two questions. One is, how do we get Council Member Pinto to respond to emails? Is there somebody monitoring the inbox? And why don't we get responses? Multiple people in the chat are saying the same thing. And then the second is, would you be willing to join the quorum of people we're pulling together to address the the kids who are doing all the stuff, along with Dunbar, the police, and us? Would you be willing to, convene with us to come up with solutions? So again, how do we get a response to emails? Number one, because we email Brooke Pinto and she does not respond, or somebody on her team does not respond. And the second is, would you be willing to be a part of the solution around the issues with the high schoolers?
Okay, sure.
By joining the council of people we're pulling together.
Yes, I'm very happy to join, and just also recommend that we invite Councilmember Parker's office, since Dunbar is in Ward 5 technically, but I'm always happy to cross borders and we work together. Commissioner Agro, you want to say something about that?
I just want to say Harper has been on those emails for a long time, so she is well aware of the situation. Many people have been on these emails.
Yeah, no,
they all know.
Yeah, so happy to join those discussions. In terms of emails, I'm really sorry. So we do our best to respond. We get so many emails, as you can imagine, but sometimes things slip through the cracks. So please, you can email me. I think I'll post my info in the chat when I'm not a panelist anymore, because now it lets me post to everybody. You can always forward anything that you've sent before, and I'll be sure to get responses for you. Like I said, it's just we got a really large amount of emails. The only, I don't sleep at night, to be honest, because I just am always like, oh shit, I didn't get to respond to enough emails today, and apologize for my language there.
All right, thank you, Carolyn. And that was the last hand that we had. So thank you, Brian, and appreciate everything that you and the council member are doing to help everyone in our community. So I see that Solana Vandernat from Events DC is here. She was here. Let's see if she's still here. No, it looks like we lost Ms. Vandernat. Unless moved up to the top yet, you moved up to the top. So promoting her to panelist. And Ms. Vandernet, go ahead and unmute.
Great. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Solana Vandernet. I'm the Senior Manager of Community Engagement for the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. I'm happy to serve as a connection point between you and Events DC. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I will put my contact information in the chat. A couple quick reminders. To learn more about Events DC, our programs, initiatives, and other opportunities, visit eventsdc.com. If you have not already done so, please sign up for our mailing list and follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I will put all this information in the chat as well. Regarding the May event calendar, for the rest of this month, we have 5 upcoming events at the Convention Center, 1 single day and 4 multi-day. There is no additional security measures that are expected for these events. I would like to highlight 3 of these events. Friday, May 19th through Wednesday, May 24th, which is a 6-day period. The American Thoracic Society International Conference will be held with an estimated attendance of 16,000. This is the largest event of the month. On Saturday, May 27th through Sunday, May 28th, which is Memorial Day weekend, the United House of Prayer will host their Memorial Day weekend celebration with an estimated attendance of 7,000. And then on Tuesday, May 30th through Friday, June 2nd, the Association of International Educators Annual National Convention will be with us with an estimated attendance of 8,000. And finally, we will be announcing the FY24 community grants next month. We will host informational sessions in July with dates forthcoming, and the application deadline is going to be August 1st. So thank you for letting me join this call, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Great. Any questions for Ms. Vandernet from members of the commission? Seeing none. Any questions for Events DC's representative from attendees? Please raise your hand or use *69 if you're on the phone. And I don't see any questions about Events DC. So thank you, Ms. Vandernet. And we look forward to you joining us again next month.
Thank you so much.
Oh, except there was one comment that someone is actually giving you a shout out here. I enjoyed it. You were the nightmare.
Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you. So now I think that we're able to move on to the topic that I'm sure the vast majority of folks that are on the line are here to hear about. That is the proposal to convert the old 2nd District Station House, 501 New York Avenue, to a temporary holding cell block for the Department of Corrections. So, Rochelle, which are the representatives that are here to address that issue?
Okay, so you want to move over Alam and Mr. Hargrove, and Peter is their architect. If you could raise your hands, gentlemen, and Alex will move you over. Now I will listen, everyone on this call. This has been quite a day and a half about this agenda item for myself, and I'll talk more about that later. But if anyone is on the call from the Department of Corrections, raise your hand and Alex will move you over. If there is not, that is the most shameful thing tonight. So I don't think so. That's too bad. Okay, I'll smooth them more. And here's what's going to happen. They're going to do their presentations, and then I will like to speak and then take questions from the commissioners. And actually would like to, while these gentlemen get their presentation up, would these external stakeholders raise their hands so you get ready to tee you guys up? People who are on the call for Douglas Development, people who are on the call for Brookfield Properties, people who are on the call for Bambini Child Care Center, people who are on the call for the United House of Prayer, people who are on the call for Boston Properties, people who are on the call for Homewood Suites Hilton, and for the development at 1110 6th Street, condos at 1114, and the condos at 1112 6th Street. Everyone tee up, okay? But first we're gonna do the presentation and then I'll speak and then the commissioners and then the people who are teeing up.
So Rochelle, were those the two representatives you were looking for, or was there anyone
So
else?
where's Peter?
Here, okay, here we go. Peter Oborowski
Peter, yep.
and
Okay, so just real briefly for you guys bring up your presentation. This was unfortunately announced to the community by me, not by the DC government, but we'll talk about that later. And this is the conversion of 501 New York Avenue to the potential holding cell for the detainees before they go see a judge, which is currently in the Daily building. Okay, gentlemen. Go ahead. Who's beginning? Alam?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Mr. Hargrove, you're starting?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We did put a quick presentation together, and hopefully it'll be informative, to everyone. And we will take your questions, at the end, and we'll try to answer as much as possible. One thing to start is DGS is the implementing agency. So we do implement on behalf of our client agencies. My understanding that DOC was unable to make it, but they did provide us with a slide that does talk about the operation of DOC at this proposed location. And we will go over that slide. There are other folks joining. I just want to acknowledge them. Mr. John Stokes, he's the Assistant Director for External Affairs. Mr. Gobolahan Williams, he's the Acting Deputy Director for the Capital Construction. With me here is Mr. Ajay Hargrove. He heads our Public Safety and Justice portfolio. He'll be presenting shortly. Mr. Mike Sammy, he's our Project Manager, and we also joined by a couple of folks from our AE firm, DLR, Mr. Peter Obrowski. He will also be joining Ajay, and Mr. Dana Forrester. So with that introduction, I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Ajay Hargrove.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Yep.
Okay, good evening. So I'm going to walk through the slide deck.
So can they see the presentation?
Can you see the presentation okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So this is our agenda for the slide deck. We're going to go through the background. Like Alam said, we'll go through DOC operations slide. We'll then go through some photographs with the architect to give you an update on where the design is right now and what the scope is. And then we'll go through the schedule and answer questions. So the 501 New York Avenue project is a sub-project to the Daily Swing project. The Daily Swing project is to provide a temporary solution for the current tenants at the Daily building. And we are moving the tenants out of the Daily building because of its current conditions. We have a lot of the systems are failing. We have a lot of the exterior. We have water infiltration from the exterior, from the roof, the environment issues, and we have mold. So we're moving folks out of that building. And there are 2 tracks to the Daily Swing project. Those 2 tracks, the first track is moving MPD, who is the largest tenant at Daily, over to 441. That's currently in progress, in construction, and targeted to be complete in 24. And the second track, which we're here to discuss today, is the 501 New York Avenue project. And this is related to another project, 2850, where the tenants that currently occupy 501 New York Avenue will be relocated to 2850. And we're targeting that work to be completed in October of this year. So that said, 501, as it's been identified to house the central cell block, will be the temporary location. There was an extensive study done to identify a building that met all the criteria required for CCB. And those criteria included the proximity to the courthouse. We needed a facility that had holding cells that had a sally port, and we needed a facility that was part of the district portfolio. And 501 currently meets all of those criteria. Currently in 501 is the Traffic Safety and Specialized Enforcement Branch, and as previously noted, they will be relocated to the 2850 project. Currently, the building holds 20 cells, and part of the renovations, we will be increasing that number to 46 cells to meet the current need for DOC. The building is within a historic district, but it's not on the historic register. Currently, we're tracking for construction to start in October in 2023, once 2850 is completed. During the construction time, we do intend to continue to provide communication updates as we make progress. The general scope for this current project that's in permitting is all interior with some exterior repairs to ensure that we don't have weather and water infiltration. And currently we're looking at options for an exterior improvements such as fencing. But again, that has not been solidified. I'm going to hand over, let me talk about DOC. So DOC operations, typically the detainees that are gathered are coming from not only MPD law enforcement, but other law enforcement agencies. Typically they're being held for no more than 12 to 24 hours. And those that are held overnight typically are transferred by 7:30 the next morning. This will be a 24 hours facility, 365 days of the year. Detainees who miss arraignment court or received a CCV from between the hours typically from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's also anticipated that you'll have vendors providing food, maintenance, of course, and general maintenance to the facility. The next slide is just some images I'd like Peter to be able to speak to. Peter?
Thanks, Haji. So for those of you that are not familiar with the site, I hope everyone can hear me. We've got a couple of site photographs. The project site is bordered by New York, L Street, 5th and 6th. This is standing on the corner of 5th and New York, looking back to the west. Next slide is standing at the corner of 5th and L. You get to see the parking area there at the end of the building. This is a 1930s building with a 1960s addition that was done. Currently being used as the traffic court, I believe is what it's for. The next slide shows a view standing at L and 6th, looking again at the back edge. And then the last slide shows a view from New York Avenue and 5th, kind of the front of the building. As we stated, there are going to be some exterior repairs to the building. There is no really exterior renovations, it's repairs where the building is going to look effectively exactly as it does. We're not changing the character or materiality of anything on the project. We're simply repairing the brick. We're replacing some glass in the existing windows, repairing some damage that's occurred to the roof, and replacing the flat roof on the portion of the low step down area that you can't see the roof of at this point in time. This is the site, as I noted, it's bordered by L Street there on the top of the plan, New York Avenue on the bottom at the angle. On the right is 5th and on the left is 6th. One of the things that we talked about is possibly adding some fencing to the project. And this is more for appearances than anything else. So we looked around the district, and these are the most common fencing types that we have found in the area. And this is something that the team is talking about and considering to enhance the envelope around the building itself. Again, it's utilizing a brick or brick base with a wrought iron infill or some type of wrought iron and brick post design. And the next slide shows some options of other types of pickets that might be used on the project. And the only idea here is to just allow a little bit more obscurity of the building as it meets the sidewalk for folks walking by. A little bit on the plans of the building. This is the basement level. This is where we're adding the majority of the holding cells on the project. These are below grade, have no visibility to the outside. The windows there on the north actually look out into a moat, so all they're going to be getting down there is light. Again, it's our hope that the majority of these cells are not used very often. The existing central cell block has 50 cells. We have 46 in this project. On the next floor, we have 10 of the existing cells there to the north side. To make this building accessible, we added some cells on the other half of the first floor. That way the processing area and the holding area are all accessed on a single level. All the detainees will be inside the building, so none of this activity will be visible from the exterior of the project. There will be no detainees outside the walls of the building. The next level is what we call the cell tier, or the tier level. So this is above the other cells. They're half floors above and below each other. These are, again, existing cells. This is the only building in the DC inventory that has these requirements already met. And last but not least, the second floor is DOC operations. This is basically where staff will be working on a day-to-day basis. We've converted some office spaces to locker areas. We have a security control room and staff office and workstations on this level. A little bit about the construction schedule. As Aji had mentioned before, right now we're looking to complete our design. We're nearly complete now. Permitting is in its final stages at this point, and bid documents are going out for evaluation and selection. One of the key issues tied to the project is the move from the current occupants to 2850. At that point in time, the construction work will start. And again, the construction is planned to be inside the building. The only impacts to the site would be any laydown areas, which we right now foresee being on the site and not impacting the roadways around the project very much at all. We're looking at approximately a 14-month construction schedule for this to go on. And most of that is because of long lead items. And we've worked very closely with DGS, MPD, and DOC to see if we can start getting some of those long lead items started early to shorten that construction period to the greatest extent possible. And then the very end there is the closeout of the project in early 25 and the move in of the DOC client in March of 25.
This is alarm before we go. Just one thing to correct, Pete, if we can go back to the schedule on the construction bidding, we have not, I just want to make clear, we haven't gone out to bid yet. So we're still finalizing the bidding document because we're waiting for the permit. So I just want to make clear that we have not gone out to bid. We're finalizing, the bidding documents.
Thanks a lot. With that, we'll open it up to questions.
Well, you're going to get a lot of statements from me. How about that? So would you take down your presentation?
Take it down, Roger.
Did that work?
Take it down.
Yeah, 1 second. Stop sharing.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Alex, can you help them?
Yeah.
Should be on the bottom of the screen.
There we go. Okay. So I'll be very succinct in my statements, so this does not go on long. Plus, I have many external stakeholders that want to give their opinion. So for those of you who are not on my social media page, the community found about this project via my social media. There was no outreach from the government whatsoever about this project. And it was interesting seeing that timeline that they've been working on this since February 2021. So how I found out, a little bird from Douglas Development whispered in my ear, and all I had to do was to go on the Department of Buildings website, and there were all the permits. This is absolutely insulting to the community, all of my constituents, and all of the stakeholders that surround this building. How dare you? This is impactful to all of the residents, especially the people that live nearby. So I'm going to tell you, the people are not happy that are right by this building, and that would include many of these external stakeholders. So I want to know why there was no community outreach. Go. What was the process? How was I supposed to be notified or anyone? It shouldn't have been by my Instagram.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, for some reason the camera is not working. Says it's access device menu setting. Probably I'll say camera. I don't have access to my camera, but good evening, everyone. This is John Stokes, the Associate Director of External Affairs for the Department of General Services. And so we normally work with our client agencies regarding the community engagement. So I'm going to have to probably try to get back to you on, with our DOC, Department of Corrections, regarding the community engagement piece, but we are definitely committed to meeting with the community and having conversations with the community moving forward. But as to why the particular, what's this? Okay, unable to access. Come on.
We don't have to see you, John. Just keep going.
Yeah. So that is, we'll have to normally, because again, we normally work with our client agencies. So we'll have to get back to you again on with the community engagement. But again, we are committed to moving forward to having frequency of community engagement and working with the organizations that are surrounding the facility that's going to be in use.
Okay, John, who I know John very well, the government is 2 years behind with their outreach. Okay, and what is extremely disturbing about this call, so the guys that are on the call are from DGS and Peter's Architect, right? So they don't do the operations for this facility. They're talking about the structure and all that. That's great. The operator and the management of this facility is the Department of Corrections. And as I've shouted out before, they are not on this call. My constituents and I were completely dismissed by the Department of Corrections. It is disgusting that I went to the director. Well, Johnson, with all these emails went flying back and forth. No one from the Department of Corrections could be bothered to be on this call. There it is. So the guys that are on this call are not responsible for the daily operation. So they've done a good job doing their bit, but the Department of Corrections is absent, and that message is loud and clear to me.
This is the second month in a row that we've been requesting.
That's right.
In this meeting.
Alex saw all the emails. I was exhausted. So, all right. I don't want to belabor this, but I would like to get my get commissioners to ask questions first, and then I want my external stakeholders to give their opinion of this, because this is absolutely insane that we were not told about this. And this is about optics. This is about property value. This is about safety. And we didn't know. And thank God for me and my social media, I should be paid by the DC government, because my gosh, this is horrendous. Okay, Alex, let's ask the commissioners.
Yeah, so members of the commission, questions for the representatives from DGS and contractors. And I don't see any there. Again, I think, Rochelle, our biggest issues are with the Department of Corrections, who obviously is not here to answer for themselves. And
that was purposely done. You can't tell me any different.
Even though we intentionally, postponed this discussion from last month's meeting because they said that they were not able to attend the April meeting. So we said, okay, we'll move it to May so that you have an entire month to be able to get your ducks in a row and get your act together and have representatives ready to answer community residents' questions and the commission's questions, and they failed to do that. So
here's a higher level point, is that they can't get their act together for this presentation, Department of Corrections. God help us when this thing opens up, because they have zero project management skills, and frankly, they don't want to communicate with the community. There you go. Fairly obvious.
I think that Grace Reeder from Mayor's office is trying to communicate, saying senior leadership has been fully briefed on this matter, but feel free to send me any and all comments, questions, feedback about this project of Grace? Grace, I think
Grace.
that's welcome, but that's not what we're asking for. We're asking for answers, and we've been waiting for them for 2 months.
I
So-
will have to publish my emails, Alex. I can't wait for I begged for anyone to come from the Department of Corrections. Literally, apparently only director that can come. It is insane that there is no one here from the Department of Corrections. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm gonna publish all my emails. It's gonna be great. And y'all can see who was on all those emails, because let me tell you, it's a high level type of thing.
I see that John Stokes somehow fell off, so I'm going to try to get him back on.
So all these things come up in the chat, you know, they didn't want to tell us. So here's also another bullet point. We would, if it wasn't for me, we would not have found out about this project until the first van pulled up inside the building. And that is the absolute truth. Don't believe anything else.
Okay. So I don't see any other hands from members of the commission, and we do have
Commissioner Berry
a long-
does. There's Commissioner
Excuse
Berry.
me? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see.
Hi, is this happening? Like, is it definitely going down? This is going to happen. Is that what you're suggesting? There's no way for us to stop this?
We're gonna try to stop it. Don't worry. We on it.
Is there someone we should contact? Is there?
Good question, Commissioner, because since the director of the Department of Corrections didn't bother to show up, we're not too sure. But we're gonna move this forward because these external stakeholders that surround the building are not happy. So more to come. You will be involved.
All right, we've got.
Should I team up? You may do it, Alex?
We've got 9 hands up. You want me to just
So-
take them in order, or?
Let's take them in order. So here I have Dane Thomas. He is with the United House of Prayer. So the United House of Prayer represents, there are the closest residents to this building are on L Street, right north of the building. You can't get any closer. There you go.
Right, Elder Thomas.
Mr. Thomas.
Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yep.
can.
Okay. As we've heard, I represent 9 House Fair Properties. The Madison Victorian is located at 501 through 519 L Street, which is directly across the street from 501 New York Avenue. When we heard about this, we were not happy at all. Number one, because again, like we've heard, we had not been considered as far as outreach, as far as proximity. Even hearing in the presentation, we heard that the criteria was proximity to the courthouse and all of these other things, but they did not take into consideration the people who live the closest and who would be most inconvenienced. We as a property and as a company do not agree, and we oppose this in any way, shape, or fashion. And we will be working towards not making this to happen.
Thanks, Mr. Thomas. And let me add to, since Mr. Thomas's residents are right behind this building, what was brought up to me by the chief of staff for the police is something very interesting. And take note of this, Mr. Thomas, is that in the current Daily building, there is screaming that goes on. I don't know what they scream, you know, get me out of here. I don't know what they scream, but I can assure you, if the screaming happens, the constituents across the street are going to hear it. Right now, the detainees, and correct me if I'm wrong, DGS, are in the basement. They're not going to be in the basement anymore. So I guess this is the question for DGS. What sort of actions are going to mitigate the screaming in terms of soundproofing if this happens? Because there's going to be screaming and noise and whatever else.
And not just that, but also traffic will pick up and other things will change, because right now we're a residential area. We have families. I've just been contacted about one of my residents whose family is enlarging, so he needs another unit. We see daily from Bambini, the young children who just walk through the area during the daytime. This isn't something that we think is going to help our community in any way, shape, or fashion. at any time. And we oppose it. We'll be working to contact somebody and make our voice heard.
We're starting a campaign, Mr. Thomas. Hey, DGS, can you answer my question about the screaming?
Hi, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep, but there's an echo.
Now we can't. You're muted.
Mr. Hargrove, can you answer the question or?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, so again, some of the detailed, those of design we'll get with our architect and we'll provide you an answer. But again, I understand that we're willing to work with the commissioners and with the community. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the big screen here because we are in a conference room. But again, the criteria, as Mr. Aji kind of read, is again there were issues that we needed to solve, for the existing tenants of Daily Building. And again, this building already had holding cells. This building already had a sally port. A sally port is the two-way garage that opens that, you roll up a door and you drive the van in and you kind of, release, load, offload, detainees, then you go out from the other exit. So this is a government-owned facility that kind of checked most of the boxes, if not all of the boxes. And it already had, again, a holding cells. Yes, the numbers are being increased, but again, this facility that's already been, functioning in that capacity. Again, to the question of the noises, Mr. Rochelle, I have to get back with the architect to see how is that addressed on the element, whether it's a window application, kind of a thicker window, or some kind of a sound baffles, inside the building.
So you're telling me that because I mentioned the screaming, you had no idea about this?
No,
That's what I'm hearing.
No, I'm saying is this is probably a more detailed issue.
But you guys are the architects. You guys are DGS. So we're gonna move on because you all didn't know about screaming. Okay, so let's go on to Sean Sullivan is from Boston Properties. This is currently the empty lot across the street, but this is the very significant development. So Sean, you have the floor. Can't hear you, Sean. Sean.
You're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, great. So, yes, as Commissioner Nagro said, I'm here tonight representing Boston Properties and Stewart Investment Company. We are working on the development directly across the street, 1001 6th Street, which we're planning for 540 new residential units, 30,000 square feet of new ground floor retail, bringing anywhere from, around 800 units or 800 residents, future residents to the area. In addition, I would say, just to note that between Boston Properties and Stewart Investment Company, we will have over $1 billion invested in this block. So, and I'm going to ignore, as Commissioner Nagro said, I'm going to ignore sort of the hypocrisy of not briefing the community. And as a private developer, that's step number one. And when the government doesn't enforce that on themselves, it's somewhat sickening. But I think a lot of the points have already been raised. I do have a couple of questions, but I'll just sort of go through my initial concerns. Safety being the first and foremost. As we've heard tonight already, the incidents and the already unrest in the neighborhood is troublesome, and you're adding to that. Taking a step back, the mayor's is touting the comeback plan. We've heard about the property value shortfalls. We're trying to get people back downtown. We're trying to revitalize downtown districts. This is a downtown district. And I understand that it checks boxes. You missed one box. It's location. This is a downtown residential commercial district. By the way, it's 2 blocks from the convention center. You're going to tell me that the folks who are coming to the Thoracic Convention in a couple of weeks, the 17,000 people are going to be walking by from their hotels, listening to people scream, listening to people come in and out of vans at 7:30 in the morning. That's a good look for the city. That's a good look for local businesses who are trying to get people back into their storefronts. That's a good thing for the residents, new and existing, who are trying to get people back into the city to revitalize our downtown areas. I just find this incredibly short-sighted. And I can tell you that our ownership group is going to be very active in fighting this. We have already started looking into filing injunctions on permits. We've had it done to us, so we know the process. Commissioner Nigro and others, I'm happy to work with you on that.
Absolutely.
I do have a question, if I could. It is being framed as temporary. Can someone just shed some light on the timeline for how temporary it is? Because I'm call me, cynical, but investing in building, doubling the size of the holding cells kind of leads me to believe this is rather permanent. And I think that, all of us would be sort of better informed to understand how exactly temporary, air quotes, that this might be. Thank you.
John Stokes, can you answer that? Maybe not.
I believe that this is going to be, we don't have an exact timeline on that right now. It could be a couple of years that this will be a temporary situation. I don't have an exact, I know that we're still working on into is the exact timeline for how temporary it is, but it's going to be temporary. But I can't tell you this evening whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. I can't tell you that this evening, but we will definitely get back to you on that.
So, John, I think that the temporary means permanent, but again, that's my opinion. But what do I know?
Picture now. I have not that this is permanent. I have not heard that.
I won't be surprised. Well, considering we got no outreach from the beginning, nothing surprises me anymore. Okay, Sean, anything else?
First, a question for John. So, John, the daily building renovation project is not funded at this point. There's no timeline for that.
I do believe that is funded. IJ, you can speak to that more, but I do believe the daily building renovation is funded and that is underway. In fact, I know that's underway.
I can speak to that. The daily building itself is not funded this year. We put in a budget request for 25, and we're waiting to hear back if that's going to be approved.
But we have started some work.
So, Rochelle, that's why they can't tell you whether it's 5 years or it's 7 years or if it's ever going to be going to be released, because they don't know when and if MPD and the Department of Corrections are going back into the daily building.
Yeah, there's no project management. Okay. All right, Sean Sullivan, anything else?
No, thank you. That's ridiculous. I as a project manager myself, I can't imagine going forward with a project without the other end solved. Thank you.
Great. Good to talk to you.
Doesn't make sense to anyone that has any experience in project management. Sosan El Tayeb.
So Sosan is a wonderful part of Brookfield Properties. She is so are you the head manager, or you're beyond the head manager of the 655, right?
Yeah, I'm the general manager for that property.
There you go. But she's a big deal.
So, thank you for including us into this conversation, Commissioner Nigro, and just speaking on behalf of my ownership as well as my tenants that occupy the building and potential lease impacts that this has on our property. It's just very frustrating to us because we, again, like Commissioner Nigro relates earlier to the group, we were actually informed by others. We did not know of this ever taking place. We didn't know that this was potentially going to impact our area. We have a daycare that is in our property. We have children that are dropped off right in front of the facility that you guys are planning to open. And this is not impactful just for us as operators, but just for parents that are dropping off their kids, for families that are potentially going to have to like relocate because they're not going to feel safe and comfortable to drop off children. I think what's really being missed is this New York Ave is a very busy in itself already of an area, and having this potentially impact traffic even more. Tenants are potentially not even going to want to come to the building, and this is going to impact our operations. It's going to impact how we get occupants in the building. So for the frustration is really important for somebody to hear, because to them it's potentially checking boxes, like the gentleman from Boston Property said, but it's more than that for us. It's our operations, it's our retail tenants, it's people trying to get into the garage every morning and feeling safe that they can go in and out of the building. It's people at the convention center. Like, we have a lot of retail. So the impact for us is a lot bigger than I think what the Department of Corrections is currently considering. So our frustration is obviously extremely high, and we really need to understand what we can do to stop this from moving forward, because one, it's not fair that we were not notified as stakeholders in the community, and two, like there's no consideration for how this will impact our businesses. So it would have been really important for us to have some sort of understanding, some sort of say, so we can determine how this is going to impact our occupants long term.
And so also add on that Douglas Development lost a client because of this already, and the thing hasn't even happened yet. There you go. Economic impact. And so also mentioned the Bambini Children's Daycare. So here you're going to have the parents and the strollers and the kids or all that. They're walking past, and then here are these people screaming. That's nice.
All right, let's move on to Nee.
So Nee is the general manager of the Homewood Suites, representing Homewood Suites / Hilton Hotels. Okay.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you so much. I'm just, I think a lot's really been said about just us as business stakeholders now being impacted. We run a hotel, 160 suite hotel, that caters to a lot of convention center folks and families, international, local, that come into DC. Rochelle mentioned about the impact of the optics of it. That definitely is very important. Every day we have guests that attend citywide events, and I have guests that are walking directly. That's the path directly they take to the convention center. So walking past that every day is definitely something that's going to impact us. When we put together contracts for citywides, one of the things they do ask, among the many things, are how close are you to certain things like police stations. Those are the things that impact their decision-making too, which will negatively impact our business too as well. As families are coming in with the noise and the volume of vehicles kind of coming in, it's a 24-hour police facility, right? So you have police cars and sirens going through all through the night, which definitely is going to negatively impact the hotel and our business too as well. I mirror everybody else's comments about how negligent it is not to communicate with all the stakeholders and all the businesses and the residents in the area and get the impact. I wonder if it was, done specifically just to avoid getting our feedback or avoid hearing about how it's going to impact everybody. I know they'd mentioned also some construction. That area is already tight with traffic, right? That's definitely going to be another thing that impacts everybody's commute and impacts our business too as well. If you're having construction in those tight, narrow spaces when you're doing those buildings. I know they said there's not a lot external, but any trucks sitting on that L Street corridor, even on New York Avenue, are definitely going to impact and cause more traffic to an area that's already highly congested most of the time anyway. But I'm with you all, and I fully intend to fight this with my ownership group, because that's something that when they built the hotel, 7 or so years ago, this was one of the things that definitely would have impacted their decision-making too as well, because it's not some place where you want a multi-unit hotel to be. And Homewood Suites is a family brand. We do have families coming in, international, like I said, and locally. And seeing that and having that noise and having that traffic consistently is something that's negatively going to impact the hotel. So it's something we definitely have to consider and something we intend on fighting and preventing from happening.
Very good. Thank you, Nee. And yes, the bullet point is that we weren't supposed to know about this. So thanks for bringing that up again. All right. And we're honored to have Dr. Murray back from the United House of Prayer. Welcome back.
Go ahead, Dr.
Thanks again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Commissioner Nigro, for bringing this to all of our attention. My colleague, Mr. Thomas, spoke a moment ago from the perspective of the organization as the landlord that has built around that area. I'm going to speak on behalf of the residents. I live on that L Street block that looks directly at the police station. Like everyone else has said, we're dismayed that we haven't been consulted. I have to tell you, I'm really disgusted that for the second meeting in a row, it seems that the DC government has tried to insult the intelligence of the people in this particular area. And we plan to join with you, as we did a month ago, to fight the parking changes. We plan to join with you, with the business leaders and others, hotel owners and others in the community that do not want this. We don't believe that they need to make it so that the windows are more soundproof. We believe that we need to fight and protect our neighborhood and keep our neighborhood the way that we want it to be, instead of accepting these changes that have been done in such a way that it seems like it's pulling nothing short of cheap cotton over our eyes. And we just cannot continue to have it. We've been in this community for a long time. As a matter of fact, longer than that station has existed. If it's a 1930s structure, we've been in this community longer than that structure, and we should have a voice in what happens. And if we wanted to make significant changes in the community, we would have had to consult the community, and we would have had to get approval from the community. And so they should not be allowed to proceed under a different set of rules, no matter what form of government they do it in the name of.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. It's a pleasure to see you again or hear from you again. And also to tag on, and John Stokes would be aware, this was, I would say, a bit fast-tracked with the permitting. I will use those words. So yes, please join in the campaign, Dr. Murray, and we are glad that United House of Prayer will be a part of this. Okay, thank you. And we have Kyle Everett. I don't know where Kyle's from. Kyle, are you from one of my stakeholders? Kyle.
Sorry. Yeah, so I live on 6th and L. I'm a recent purchaser. Yes. I believe we've spoken before.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot. Yes, I do know you. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I just want to echo everything that's been said by previous callers. I purchased a property on 6th and L, I think a little over a year ago at this point. And had I known about this project, I think it certainly would have impacted my decision making, and I likely wouldn't have moved to the neighborhood if this were to actually, in fact, be developed. We've already touched on some of the themes of businesses that are investing in the neighborhood, of residents who have lived here for years, and of the effects that this facility can have to the detriment of those aspects of the community. There's a daycare across the street. There's increasing number of businesses on L Street, and there's a growing sort of residential area, and there's existing residents. And I think all of those constituents need to be taken into consideration. And the fact that DOC isn't here or willing to announce to the community is shameful. I do want to propose that I'd be willing to put my name on any sort of legal filing, and that I think injunctive relief is a good option here, and that I would encourage those who are filing those lawsuits to notify everybody in the community.
All right, thanks, Kyle. So we have just a couple more people. Alex, can we have them be very brief, and we'll end with the downtown bid?
All right, so we've got Avi next.
Hi, Avi.
Are you on? Hello.
I need you to be brief.
Yeah. So I'm not going to repeat what everyone said, but pretty bad look for the city. But I also would put the blame on people who are in this meeting or who they represent, including mayor's office and the commissioner, the council members. Like, hello, you guys funded this and are support, like, voted to pass to enable this to happen. So where were you guys in telling the community that you guys were doing this? So shame on all of you in DC government who are on this call for not informing the community, because you're just as responsible for the lack of communication as the Department of Corrections. Assuming this happens, what's going to be the impact on parking and because I imagine there's going to be a lot of employees involved with this because it's going to be staffed with medical people. I found slides on what the current situation is at the Central Place. So what's going to be the parking situation? We're going to have parking overtaken near the Safeway with employees. So I'm curious as to what the plan is for that. And is there going to be any barbed wire to support the facility, enhance security as well? Thank you.
So John, can you answer his first question, or does our absent Department of Corrections, are they the only one that can answer that?
Ajay, can you possibly address this?
Sure. The parking implications right now are that the parking will remain as it is. There's no increase into the neighborhood, and we're not putting in barbed fence around the facility. All the security will be contained within the building.
So, let me, I don't think you guys have brought this, and I almost forgot, but thank God they mentioned that little parking lot. So that little parking area is actually owned by the National Park Service, which I assume that you guys know, because I saw the surveyor out there last week, but that needs to be discussed. That is national park land. So I'm talking about that little triangle everyone's familiar with. That is not DC government owned. Do y'all know this or not? Or am I the only one that knows this?
And the Historic Preservation Review Board has previously asked that it be turned into green space.
So, hello, DGS, are we aware of this or no? John? Anyone?
Do you know?
I know you guys don't know this.
We'll look into the.
I love it. I love it. I love being ahead of the curve.
Plat map shows it as a single property right now, so.
Huh?
The plat bank shows it as a single property.
So I have an email from the Park Service. They own part of that land.
And I've run into that other areas in the district, so there's claims on all properties throughout the district.
I just got an email from her, so.
That's okay. I
Who's
understand.
right?
I'm just telling you where the plat map came from and where our surveyors found it's a single lot number.
So I'm glad I saw the surveyors the other day. Okay, so let's
Luis S., go ahead. Luis,
Thank you. This
Luis?
is Luis. Yes, this is Luis from 6NL. I'm a resident on close to where they are planning to have this jail, and I want to express that I'm very concerned about knowing that this is taking place, but as well we shouldn't focus on exactly how are they going to resolve the noise problem or the parking problem. We should focus on exactly how are we going to stop this. We should mobilize in order to see what do we need to do in order to stop these plans in order to move a jail into our community. Who is not going to make us safer? Who is going to make our property lose value and impact all the residents and the businesses around the area? Thank you.
Very, very good, Luis. And let me make it clear, the people that spoke before you are some very powerful partners in Washington, D.C. So, and John Stokes is aware of this, and DGS is aware of this. So they know Boston Properties, they certainly know Douglas Development, and they know Brookfield. So, and United House of Prayer, right? United House of Prayer. So you have 4 very powerful entities that they now have to deal with. Okay, so don't worry, Luis, we're on it.
Resident skill.
Oh, yes. Oh, what about, okay.
Get to Karen last.
Okay.
Resident, you can unmute. Unless you no longer wish to speak.
Resident.
Okay, we're gonna go.
No, he is, there is.
Yes, we are also close to street from the property, 1100 6th Street. Which
Hi.
my partner knows you, Commissioner Negro. We like to thank you to bring this us. I mean, I don't want to just repeat everything. We completely oppose this development. Just one thing, as a builder, I like to know. The architects think that the ceiling height allows them to do this. That's the only facility, only building in the DC they can put those cells because of the ceiling height. I like to know what other criteria, like, they are looking at it and how they're gonna make the more cells without like adding more parking. I mean, what's the plan for that? How we can, like, make this facility serve more people, more inmates without like the same traffic, like, because it's gonna directly affect us. You're gonna see all these cars around the blocks, maybe 2 blocks per meter. What's the plan for it? Like, how possible you can add those cells without, creating any more like parking? That's my question. Thank you all. Thank you, Commissioner Negro, again, to bring this us. We completely opposite of this development for a number of reasons. My neighbors already addressed it. Thank you.
Do we have an answer to the question from DGS?
We took a note of it and we'll provide an answer later.
Okay, so
our last community comment will be Darren
Mr. Price.
Price.
Hi, Mr. Price.
Hi there. Hope you can hear me okay.
We can.
Great. Commissioner, thank you again for bringing this issue to light and, helping to just galvanize folks around the concerns. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Downtown DC Business Improvement District, for our service president and CEO. Though this project is technically right on the outskirts of the Downtown DC bid, it certainly would have an impact on many of the buildings and entities that are within the downtown that are important to us. And I think one of the things here, and I won't rehash everything that has been heard, I really appreciate all the very transparent and just straightforward comments from folks who are concerned about some of the potential impacts. But it certainly will have an impact on both the immediate businesses that are in this vicinity, to the residents, the hotels, to the convention center. And it has been a bit disappointing just not to have the Department of Corrections here today, as we were really hoping to get some clarity on today's meeting with respect to some of the intentions for how this property would be used and what their intentions were around timelines. And frankly, I think one of the most poignant things that has come up is just really understanding what is the intent in terms of the timing for this space to be temporary. Throughout, when we first sort of caught wind of this, it's always been stated it's a temporary holding project. And so I was really hoping to get some clarity around what that meant. And so I appreciate the folks who did ask that question. And I'm hoping to get a little bit more clarity around this. And if nothing else, I think before this would move forward, there should be a clear plan for the future of the Daily building in place and funded before anything really happens here. So just wanted to affirm my support for all those who are concerned here, and anything we can do to be helpful. We want to offer ourselves as a resource. And I also just want to acknowledge, I appreciate the team from DGS for being here and for attempting to bring the information that you do have. And I hope for future iterations, we're able to bring all the agencies together with the appropriate information.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Price. I'll have to meet you sometime.
For your input.
Okay, Alex, let's end it. And then let me just make one more statement here. So on behalf of my more than 2,000 constituents and the external stakeholders that surround this building, we are against this project and we will fight this project. It is utterly ridiculous that this is being moved forward without any community consultation whatsoever. And again, yay me, and I very rarely thank myself that I moved this forward and released it, because otherwise we would never have known. There. And for all the people that have their hand raised, we'll talk offline, but we got to move the meeting forward. Thank you, Alex.
Commissioner Nigro, don't you want the commission to take some action about this evening?
Can we? I mean, does it? Will we? I mean, I guess let's do that. But I'm not. Who are we sending it to? Right, the guy that didn't show up at the meeting.
You can start with the mayor. And
We can
the
start the
deputy
mayor.
mayor.
She was on the emails too.
I have a
Okay.
question. I need to say something. I wanted to know where the money's coming from, because that would answer a lot of questions. We need to know if this money is coming from the mayor's office, and if so, we need to find out if it's going to be approved in her budget or not. Because whoever knew about this in their budget, is this going to be discussed on Tuesday at Council Members Pinto's meeting on Tuesday? I mean, someone had to know about this to not let us know about this. So we need to be able to go to that person, speak to them, ask them why they haven't been accountable to the community.
So John, why don't you tell the commissioner how long this has been budgeted? How long ago was this?
I'm not sure.
Years ago.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess that. It's no, hey, Commissioner, it's no time recent. This has been in the works and they said nothing. Boop. So, okay, I'll make a motion. So I move that ANC 2G support that this central cell block not move forward, and that we communicate this to the Department of Corrections, to the Department of General Services, to the Metropolitan Police Department, and to the mayor. There we go.
So I'll second that. Discussion? Commissioner Nigro, friendly amendment that in the letter, we also detail and describe our outrage at the lack of communications and engagement with the community about this project that has been funded for a number of years, and that it is important that plans for the restoration of the Daily building be in place before any further consideration of this project.
I accept that. I accept that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hands.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you very much.
And so, John Stokes, I can't wait for the next meeting because I will expect everyone to show up, not this ridiculousness. That's not, I know it's not your guys' fault. You guys have done an excellent job tonight and I appreciate it. And it has nothing to do with Department of General Service, but it's still absolutely insane that corrections did not show up. Insane and purposely done.
And insulting to the community and to this commission.
But thank you, DGS, you guys showed up. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. I'll talk to you, John.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
All right, moving on. Item 7 on the agenda, the Black Nile resolution regarding District Department of Transportation, traffic safety improvements. Commissioner McCarty.
Hi, everyone. I just want to propose a resolution to promote traffic safety, peace and order in Blagden Alley. It's been pretty clear that residents in Blagden Alley have been facing a lot of issues, a whole host of issues due to the mixed use nature and the recent developments and welcoming of new businesses in Blagden Alley. So this resolution is targeted to DDOT, so the District Department of Transportation, to urge them to take a few steps to help promote more peace and order and make the alley a better place for not only business patrons and visitors, but for residents. And so I'm going to just share my screen and read through this as quickly as I can, but it's got a few parts. The big parts are really making sure that there's a loading zone on 9th Street for deliveries where businesses need to have folks coming in to bring them supplies. Also on 9th Street, ensuring that there's a pickup drop-off zone as well to keep congestion and rideshare drivers out of the internal parts of the alley as well.
Sorry, Commissioner, did you, we're not seeing the resolution.
Yes.
There you go.
Sorry, there we go. And so I will just read through this. So whereas under district law, Blagden Alley residents are granted explicit rights as related to residential use of Blagden Alley, which are to encourage adaptive reuse and mixed use infill development along Blagden Alley, a residentially zoned block with historic structures such as carriage houses, garages, and warehouses. Appropriate measures should be taken to safeguard existing residential uses such development takes place. And whereas Blagden Alley residents experience daily disturbances pertaining to the accessing and exiting of their homes as a result of delivery trucks that are dropping off deliveries to businesses and are improperly parked in Blagden Alley, which blocks traffic all ways. And whereas Blagden Alley residents also experience regular noise disturbances and congestion caused by rideshare drivers picking up and dropping off alley visitors and business patrons, as well as honking, idling, and revving engines. And whereas Blagden Alley residents have experienced damage as a result of rideshare drivers and delivery trucks hitting and or backing into their property. And whereas congestion in Blagden Alley due to rideshare drivers and deliveries makes the alley more difficult to navigate and further creates unsafe conditions for pedestrians and cyclists to enjoy Blagden Alley. And whereas Blagden Alley is filled with art, murals, and the DC Alley Museum, all of which are meant to be enjoyed by residents and members of the community, but are currently prevented from their enjoyment under current traffic disruptions and congestion. And whereas ANC 2F, former 2G04, passed a resolution in October of 2021 to close Blagden Alley to through traffic. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC 2G requests that DDOT take the appropriate measures to close Blagden Alley to through traffic, noting that this would satisfy district law to safeguard Blagden Alley's residential use and promote peace and order in Blagden Alley as a remedy to the frequent disturbances residents experience. Be it further resolved that ANC 2G requests that DDOT add appropriate signage at all exits and entry points to Blagden Alley, notifying drivers that rideshare drop-offs and pickups, as well as deliveries, are not to occur in Blagden Alley. And be it further resolved that ANC 2G requests that DDOT ensure a loading zone is preserved and maintained along the 1200 block of 9th Street Northwest so that deliveries for Blagden Alley businesses can continue to occur near their establishments. Be it further resolved that ANC 2G requests that DDOT establish a pickup drop-off zone or PUDO for rideshare drivers to drop off and pick up their passengers along the 1200 block of 9th Street Northwest. Be it further resolved that ANC 2G requests that DDOT works with all common rideshare companies, especially Uber and Lyft, to geofence Blagden Alley in a way that prevents rideshare drivers from facilitating pickups and drop-offs in Blagden Alley between the hours of 7 p.m. to 10 a.m. on Monday through Friday, with the exclusion of Saturdays and Sundays. And be it further resolved that ANC 2G requests DDOT coordinate with DPW, MPD, and any other relevant agencies on enforcement mechanisms to prevent deliveries, rideshare drop-offs, and all through traffic in Blagden Alley.
All right, questions for Commissioner McCarty about the resolution? And
I have some questions. Yeah, I wanted to know about where the delivery will be on 9th Street. It's already one lane right there, so I'm very concerned as to how that will happen, and will that continue to back up traffic on 9th Street going south? Also, I wanted to know about ride shares for people who actually live in Blagden Alley. Will they be able to be dropped off directly at their home? Or is it just through traffic? Is that what you're referring to?
So it would be, well, I'm going to tackle those not in the order you presented them, but this would primarily close it to all through traffic. Residents living in the alley may experience difficulties if they need to ride share, get either picked up or drop off. But that would not mean like having to walk blocks. That would mean having to, walk a couple hundred feet to either 9th Street or 10th Street, M Street or N Street, any of the major corridors surrounding the alley. And then there is already a 9th Street loading zone And so that's kind of why I worded this in a way to say either preserve that or make sure that one remains, considering there has been adjustments to the traffic patterns on 9th Street, especially southbound with the bike lanes.
Steve, where had they been getting deliveries made? In the court or outside of the court?
So we have a few businesses that are really, really thoughtful, and we appreciate all of the businesses, but we have a few that are really thoughtful and they do use the loading zone and they do have folks hand truck items into their businesses. So we really appreciate it when folks do that. But most businesses have them just park right in the center of the court. And the alley is only 1.5 cars wide. So as soon as a box truck of any size parks, it's complete gridlock.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
All right, let's see if we have any questions from the audience. Anyone from the attendees, please use the raise your hand feature or dial *69 if you're using your phone to access the meeting this evening. So this is questions about the resolution proposed by Commissioner McCarty related to DDOT issues surrounding Blagden Alley. And I see it's Rhonda Watkins. Go ahead, Ms. Watkins.
I'm just curious, how many residents live in the Blagden Alley?
So I don't have a number off the top of my head. I would have to do a pretty deep analysis in terms of, there's a lot of single and mixed use housing there. So, there's at least 50 folks that live around the alley, if not more. There's the 10th Street side of the alley, which is mostly row homes. So I'd say, at least 50 folks there, but we have larger buildings on the northeast side of the alley above Ghost Burger. So actually there's surely more than 50 people living around the alley. But I don't know quite how many people live in that large apartment building on the northeast side.
I'm just concerned. I see that someone wrote that they're willing to walk to the main road for Uber. It just concerns me how many people would be willing to walk at night to an Uber or have an Uber drop them off at a corner and they have to walk through the alley. I would be concerned about we've been talking about the crime issue in the area. So I'm concerned, how would that fit in with trying to resolve some of the crime issues in the area? Not only that, 9th Street is already congested. If we start talking about all of the businesses have to do their loading and unloading in that part of 9th Street, it's going to be even worse, especially during the morning traffic.
So
it's just some of my concerns. I don't live there, but I was, I live in the community and I'm familiar with Blagden Alley, but we have to take all of those things into consideration. If I lived there, I wouldn't want my Uber to drop me off at 10:30 at night and I have to walk around to that alley to get to my place. I wouldn't want that. Maybe some people would, but that I wouldn't feel safe doing that.
Thank you for that feedback. I will also add that the number of folks who would need to walk out of the alley would be pretty small because most folks do have access along 10th Street or N Street, which is where those buildings are. There is a small cluster of homes in the northeast corner that are only accessible via the alley. So that's, I believe, 3 or 4 residences that would really be forced to walk. However, that is also the part of the alley where rideshare drivers have caused damage to businesses because they get back in there and there's no outlet. So they back into Lost and Found, which just put in a nice patio. So we don't, we want to try to keep everyone safe back there.
All right, that was the only question from an attendee. So Commissioner McCarty, if you'd like to make a motion related to your resolution.
Yeah, I move to submit my resolution to promote traffic safety, peace and order in Blagden Alley to the the DC Department of Transportation.
And I'll second it. Motion made by Commissioner McCarty, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Commissioner McCarty. So next, we have several public space applications. The first is related to the 1500 block of 10th Street Northwest next to Seton Elementary School. This is a one-day permit, and I know this is Representative Drew Dubé from the U.S. Soccer Foundation, who is here to address that. So I'm going to promote to panelists, and then we can hear about this request for support for this application. You can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name's Drew Dubé. Personally, I'm a DC Ward 4 resident, but my job is as a project manager with a nonprofit organization called the U.S. Soccer Foundation. This is my first time going through this particular process, so just want to say I've really appreciated the dialogue throughout the meeting and listening in. So I've been with the U.S. Soccer Foundation about 6 years. We're a nonprofit based in DC. But we do work across the country in the after-school programming space, and also as it relates to this project. So we're not focused on competitive play. We're different from the U.S. Soccer Federation, which is kind of like the men's and women's national teams. So our goal is just growing access to the sport of soccer for everyone. One of the ways we do this is we facilitate donations of small soccer courts in communities where there might be underused space. We call these soccer courts a mini pitch. And then we, as the U.S. Soccer Foundation, we manage the physical project installation with our vendors. So we've done over 600 of these across the country. And this project is in relation to an ongoing partnership we have with DC Public Schools, where we've completed 9 of these projects across the district thus far at schools. We do the projects where the school administration requests them. So we kind of have the product, and as principals request this for their campuses, we try to respond to that. And so this is related to a project we're getting ready to donate at Seton Elementary School. We've been communicating with their administration and the district on this, and this was one of the things that I was told we had to go through to make sure we could do the installation. So this is for parking on public space occupancy permit to park a 53-foot trailer on the east parking lane of 10th Street Northwest. That's just west of Seton Elementary. That's a one-way street. We need about 2 hours on Tuesday, June 27th, around 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So they park in that parking lane, and then we use a telehandler to unload parts of kind of the fence structure on that sidewalk side during that time and bring them into the schoolyard area. So Seton understands this is happening. We've been working with them closely. This lane in particular is a zone 2 parking lane, and that's a one-way street. So we don't anticipate traffic disruptions during those hours. And then we plan to fully complete the project by mid-July for use by the Seton community, but that trailer is only required to park there for those hours on Tuesday, June 27th.
All right, this is located in 2GO2, my single member district, and I have checked with Seton Elementary, and they're very eager and excited about this opportunity. So I'm certainly in support. But do any other members of the commission have any questions for Mr. Dubé about permanent application? Hearing none, are there any questions from members of the public? You are interested in asking a question or making a statement, please use the raise your hand feature or dial *69 if you are accessing the meeting phone. And I don't see any hands being raised. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that the ANC 2G support the public space application for the June 27th, 2023 occupancy permit for a trailer for the U.S. Soccer Foundation. And we report the support to the Department of Transportation and Public Space Committee, and I would ask for a second. Seconded by Mr. McCarty, who raised his hand on my motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Dubé, thank you for your patience in waiting for your case to be called this evening. And we will share this support with the District Department of Transportation. And look forward to a successful completion of your project in July.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Next is 902 S Street Northwest. This is a request for support for an exception for the installation of a planter on the sidewalk in public space. Applicant is Kirsten News. And let's see if there is a representative. If you're here to represent the applicant, can you please raise your hand or dial *69? And I'm not seeing a hand going up. So let me share a couple of photographs that were included with the application. I think that's probably going to be the easiest way to explain. This is a rather simple project. You're able to see this photograph. This is a metal planter that is being proposed to be placed in this brick area of the sidewalk in front of the property at 902 S Street Northwest, which is located in 2G01, Commissioner Brown's single member district. So this is obviously a temporary installation, but because it will be placed in public space, public space permit is required. So, Commissioner Brown, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Nothing really to add. I apologize because I didn't get to review the package. However, I think when they were out there setting this up, I happened to walk by and happened to see it early on. I don't see it as being a real problem as an exception, and if it's going to be there on a temporary basis, I don't see that it should be much of an issue.
All right. Any questions from members of the commission?
I have a question.
Nigro, yes.
So I guess I don't understand. What is, they just felt like we'd like, I mean, I love the little planner, but I don't quite get it. They're like, we want to put a planner, or is there a reason, or?
The reason is because there is not a tree box in proximity, and they wanted to drive some green space to activate.
Okay, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on this application? Please use the raise your hand feature or dial *69. And,
I have another question.
Go ahead.
So if we, I mean, it's a lovely planter, but if we support this, will many planters pop up?
I don't think so, because most of the other tree box spaces are already filled with trees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are tree boxes on the block. There are just some stretches that are only only have brick instead of green space. So this, that streetscape was actually a 1970s urban renewal project. So folks may remember that there used to be some pylons with chains, attached to them, some of which have now been removed. But today, if that streetscape were to be redesigned, I'm sure that that all of that space that is currently occupied by bricks would be green space. But there are no current projects proposed to redo the streetscape on the block.
So I just want to add that, there's concerns with, people maintaining their tree box, which I have in my area. But I mean, I would hope they maintain this little planter. That's all I'm saying. Maintain the planter.
Commissioner Brown to make sure that they understand the obligation that they are undertaking by placing the planter there.
I will do that.
I'm sure that if it were to get overgrown or if there were neighbor complaints, then they would be asked to remove it, or neighbors might come to the commission and ask us to have it removed. So.
Okay, I will definitely communicate that to the owners, and I'm even thinking I should even have them to write an agreement that they would maintain the tree box at all times.
The planter.
Yeah, the planter. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
All right, I think that we've exhausted discussion on this particular item. Commissioner Brown, if you'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that ANC 2G support this public space exception for the installation of this planter in front of 902 S Street Northwest. And I will definitely have some type of agreement as far as the upkeep and maintenance of the planter.
And we're reporting this to?
Finish it out for me.
The District Department of Transportation and the Public Space Committee?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Party seconds.
Okay.
Made by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner McCarty. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you very much. And then last public space application is 901 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest. This is at the Marriott Marquis. This is for the STK Steakhouse. Let's see if we've got a representative for the applicant. If you can raise your hand or dial *69. I'm not seeing a representative there, so let me share. That would allow us to discuss this further. No, that's not what I'm trying to share. Again. Having a problem. Let me close this out. Apologize for that. Very clearly selecting the file that I want to share. And it's not letting me share. So apologize for that. This is, a sidewalk cafe on the portion of public space that is nearest to the northeast corner of 10th and Massachusetts Avenue, on the Massachusetts Avenue side, in front of the entrance to the restaurant, which is currently under construction. We previously approved the liquor license for this establishment, and they are now requesting support for the public space permit for the sidewalk seating there. Commissioner Berry, did you get
no,
from the top system?
No, I didn't receive that. I did see that they were asking for the occupancy permit, though. I think I received that from I don't know who I got that from though.
All right, again, don't know why I'm having this particular technical difficulty.
Alex, can you send it to me and I can see if I can put it up? Can you forward it?
Let's see how I can try to minimize this. Hang on. For some reason. Oh, B, here we go. All right. Moment. Well, let's see if I close out all of these windows with the photographs, that might let me open up what I'm trying to. Let's try that one more time before we go to plan B. Okay. So yeah, very strange. Let's see. Well, let me see if I can go ahead and send that to you, Commissioner Nigro. Let's see. Apologies to all. It's uploading. Okay, off to you.
Okay.
So I would say share the site plan. Oh, no. That's fine to show.
Okay, here it is. Let me see if I can get up here. Oh, it's all these. Hold on.
Yeah, just go to one that says site plan.
Okay. Okay. Hold on here. See if I can do this here. Ta-da! Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay.
So
So
you
where
might want to scroll a little bit.
scroll down?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
There you go. So you can see, if you can zoom in a little bit, that might help too. So the gray area is, the gray area that's immediately to the north is the power station. And then the gray area to the right is the Marriott Marquis. And then so you can see the hatched area is some green space, and you can see some circles indicating where some of the tables are.
Oops, wait a minute. Make that too much.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait a minute. Whoops. Oh, shoot, hold on. I'm sorry. Is that better, Alex?
Yes.
Okay. So wait, where's the sidewalk?
So this is the area. I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but can you see the cursor?
Yes.
Okay.
You mean here?
This over here, up here. So this is the sidewalk down here, and up here is the area where the outdoor seating would be. Okay.
So wait, so is the patchy, so wait, it's my cursor that's moving around. So you're talking about this grid area is the outdoor space.
Correct.
Okay, so are these trees?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a tree. Okay.
Sidewalk. Yeah.
Okay. So is this technically on their, what would they might consider their property?
Right, but remember, it's all public space.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just an easement. So.
But the perception is it's on the hotel property though, isn't that when you look at it?
Correct.
Okay. So here's, folks, this is what we're talking about right here. The grid area.
Okay, and this is in Commissioner Berry's single member district. Commissioner Berry, any comments?
No, it seems to be off of the sidewalk on their property. I support it.
Okay, you want to take that down, Commissioner Niagara? Okay, any other questions from members of the commission? Seeing none, questions from members of the public, please raise your hand or dial *69. No questions there. So Commissioner Berry, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we support the occupancy permit for the new sidewalk cafe at STK located at 901 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest to the Department of Transportation Public Safety Department.
Public Space Committee.
Committee, sorry, yes.
Right, is there a second?
I second.
Been moved by Commissioner Berry, seconded by Commissioner Nigro. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you very much. So that's the last item of business other than and housekeeping matters. So now we have the matter of the ANC 2G secretary. This position has been vacant as a result of the resignation of Commissioner Lopez. And we do have a volunteer who has offered to fill his role should the commission choose to elect him. So Commissioner McCarty, would you like to address the commission on this matter?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to volunteer for the role of secretary. In my past board experience, I've been secretary many times before. I already have been helping maintain the website, and I hope if elected secretary, I can help bring more organization and hopefully help us keep our gaskets firing at the right cadence.
All right. Any comments from other members of the commission?
Thanks, Stephen, for stepping up. That is great.
My sentiments exactly.
Thank you.
And my thanks as well. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to nominate Stephen McCarty as secretary to Advisory Neighborhood Commission 2G, and I would ask for a second.
I second.
I heard Commissioner Nigro first, so motion made by myself, seconded by Commissioner Nigro. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you very much. Congratulations and thank you, Commissioner McCarty. So moving on to approval of minutes of the April 12th, 2023 meeting. Received a copy of the draft minutes from Karen Yela, and I also circulated some minor corrections. Would anyone like to make a motion related to approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner Nigro, that we approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2023 meeting as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Do you have a treasurer's report, Mr. Treasurer, or do we move on to approval of expenses?
I can report that we still have not gotten our money. We do have the checks. So I'm ready to write checks as soon as I get some money. I'll check with Donna tomorrow and I'll send out an update on what's going on because it should have been in there. I've been on vacation and back and it's still not there. Okay, so at this time, I have 4 expenses for the month. Commissioner Barry, did you submit anything this time?
Yeah, I sent you an email.
Okay, I didn't get it. Okay, let me just go ahead with these first. Okay, I'd like to move that ANC 2G reimburse Commissioner Nigro for the incurred expense of reproducing the monthly ANC meeting agendas in the amount of $38.16.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, it was moved by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner McCarty. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. And
I have to abstain.
Right.
Abstain.
Abstention, Commissioner Nigro. Motion passes 5-0-1.
Okay. Next expense is, I'd like to move that ANC 2G pay Karen Yaley for the expense of providing website services and preparing our minutes for ANC 2G's monthly meeting for this month in the amount of $275.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner Nigro. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Raising your hand, aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Okay. And next one is, I move that ANC 2G reimburse Commissioner Padro for the expense of the payment of the Zoom for the One Pro monthly fee in the amount of $16.95.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner McCarty. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 I abstain. So that's
Yes.
5-0-1.
Right.
Very much.
Okay. Last one is I'd like to move that ANC 2G reimburse Commissioner Padro for the monthly Zoom webinar 500-1 for the May meeting of the ANC 2G.
Is there a second?
Wait a minute, in the amount of $80.74.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner Barry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 And I abstain, so it's 5-0-1. Motion passes.
Okay.
Conclude expenses. Oh, yes, no, Commissioner Barry.
Yes. Shannon, Commissioner Barry, you know the total amount.
Yeah, my receipt was $58.04 for FedEx office. If you'll notice around the neighborhood, I used to post 8.5 by 14. I'm going to move to 8.5 by 11 because it's cheaper. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I moved that ANC 2G reimburse Commissioner Barry for the reproduction of the agenda for the month in the amount of $58.04.
And is there a second?
I second.
Been moved by Commissioner Brown, seconded by Commissioner Nigro. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
And Commissioner Barry abstains. So motion carries 501.
Okay. All right. So those are expenses for this month.
Is there anything else?
No, that was it. Our expenses for the month were a little $600. I think thus far I don't think we've spent but maybe $2,000. So we're good. But I will update everybody tomorrow as to what Don says where our money is.
Great, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. So, just a final announcement encouraging folks that are on the line to join as volunteers to any of our committees. We do have a new public safety committee, in addition to the pre-existing transportation committee, which we're looking for a chair for as a result of Commissioner Lopez's resignation, as well as the zoning and historic preservation and alcoholic beverage licensing committee. So you can send a message, an email to 2g@anc.dc.gov to volunteer. And Commissioner McCarty has posted a link with the description of the committees in the chat. And
I have an announcement really quick. I'm having a meeting at the Kennedy Recreation Center at 6:00 p.m. on May 15th. It's in person right now. I'm trying to make it hybrid, but you will see the signs around the neighborhood and you can attend virtually or in person, hopefully virtually in person. But if not, please come out. It starts at 6:00. It'll be every third Monday of each month, unless there's a holiday. So that means it will not be in June. It'll be in May. It'll skip to July and we're off for August. So please come out, ask me any questions, bring your concerns about the neighborhood, anything you want to work on. I know that Commissioner Nigro is working on this holding cell thing. If she has any information, I will have that there for you to collaborate and work on that with me there as well. So please come out and I hope to see you at 6:00 at 1401 7th Street Northwest, the Kennedy Recreation Center at 6:00 every third Monday. Okay.
And we should be getting out notice about a public meeting kicking off the public engagement process for the Florida Avenue Bus Priority Project. We did request a presentation at this month's meeting, but they declined and deferred to next month after the initial public meeting has taken place. So the first meeting will be virtual and we'll be sure that we share information about it as soon as we have it. So our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June the 8th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. It is anticipated that will once again be a Zoom meeting. We probably will eventually have to have a hybrid meeting if there is a contested election for filling the 2G03 seat, which that vacancy has been posted by the Board of Elections. So anyone that is interested in running for the 2G03 seat should contact the Board of Elections and Ethics. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, wait a minute, Commissioner Brown. You need to unmute, Commissioner Brown.
Commissioner McCarty, welcome again. I'll get with you. We have to sign some documents for the bank as well as the signature cards. I'll get with you. Thank you.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
From Commissioner McCarty, seconded by Commissioner Brown. All in favor, signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned at 9:52 p.m. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye and stay safe.
Stay safe.